Isn't this a sports show?
C. Spagnuolo is a gift to the human race, really to the whole planet and altogether. I bet animals would love Spags also. Actually, I know that's true. He's already friends with the honey badger. He's basically Cinderella.
Almost entirely.
Trying to imagine how that would go.
I actually am right now, yeah. I am, and it's awesome.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
What is that, a glass slipper? Is that for my left foot? Is that going to fit on my foot?
The ball was yesterday?
Wait, what time do we have to go home? Is it midnight?
Oh, is it? Listen.
What time is it?
Good
morning, guys.
Wait a second, is that turned into a pumpkin? What time? Is it AM or PM? Midnight or noon?
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
You tell me this horse was a rat?
Wait, what? The horse is a rat?
Why is it wearing your shirt?
What's going on with the horse and the rat? Where's my honey badger?
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Honestly, I was kind of over the high-profile celebrity boxing pay-per-views that were going around for a little while. I certainly never paid for those. I'm not sure I ever made appointment viewing out of any of them. But all of a sudden, it happens in an impromptu fashion, and it's the only thing any of us can talk about.
Was an impromptu, Josh.
Wow, that's a bold accusation, Rudy Salazar, on the other side of the glass. I'm Joshua Brisco. It is Almost Entirely Sports here on a Monday. I mentioned that we're here and the day of the week just because we haven't had very many shows in a while. A lot of NCAA basketball. I was off for a couple of days for a couple of reasons that I will talk about later. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know. You already know why I was gone.
Another hospital trip?
No hospitals. In fact, narrowly avoiding hospitals to successfully go see glass animals in St. Louis. But we would have had an AES the day that Tyreek Hill got traded. But I was trying to see glass animals, which I wasn't able to do successfully last time because I went to the hospital when they were in Kansas City, tried to go to St. Louis to see when Tyreek Hill gets traded. So, world stays busy when I'm trying to go see a band that I wanted to see in concert very badly. But between that and the NCAA tournament going on and everything, it's been a minute. Last time we did Almost Entirely Sports, Juju Smith-Schuster was a Kansas City Chief, Tyreek Hill was, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling was not yet. Two of those are different now. And also the entire...
Juju failed his physical?
No, it's not that one. And now we also sit here the evening after I think all of the jokes have already been taken. That is one thing about doing a show at night that really can be difficult, is that if something wild happens on a weekend evening, be it a big Sunday night football game or Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, all of the good jokes and all of the bad think pieces have all been taken already. I'm on day 4 of the discourse on this at this point, and I'm just trying now to think of who's the undercard for the celebrity slap fight. I've got one that I love. I think we've got to get Tom Holland and Timothée Chalamet. Let them just go 1v1, and the winner gets all the parts that those two would otherwise fight for. I just think that one should happen. I actually like both of them.
Timothée Chalamet was it was down to him and Tom Holland for Spider-Man.
I don't think I did know that, but it totally makes sense.
Those were the two.
Now put Tom Holland in The French Dispatch and Dune. It would be fine. It would work.
Tom Holland's on Dune?
No one knows, actually, which one of them is the one that's in Dune.
What won Best Movie?
I don't know, Rudy.
Makes me feel better.
I don't know.
Because
it might have been Coda.
Oh, yeah, it was Coda.
Great.
Yes. I'm 99% sure it was Coda, which actually looks like a very good movie. I've added it to my watch list on Apple Plus.
It did win Best Picture.
I'm going to watch it at some point. It looks very good. Because I was mentioning this to you before the show, I just don't care about award shows. And part of that is just generally because I don't personally care who wins what. It does not change how I feel about a movie, right? And odds are I will rarely see any of them. I just don't watch a lot of movies that aren't made by Marvel. Now, if you give me a Marvel Awards show, I'm probably in because I'm a hypocrite, I guess.
No, it's
and
just
I can admit it.
No. I mean, what it is it's not that you don't really care about award shows. You don't really care about the media that it's covering for the most part.
That's fair.
That's okay. That's all right. You might be, and this might be a little bit too sports normative, but you might be more likely to watch the ESPYs than the Oscars. It's not because you don't care. I also same boat.
The ESPYs was like for like the first 3 years of its existence.
Yeah.
I think Timberlake Odin, that whole thing, was the last time I was like really into the ESPYs, and boy, that was a long time ago. Because again, if you didn't know the name I mentioned, Greg Oden was a thing back then. That's when Greg Oden was like famous.
I just found out that Jessica Chastain won Best Actress last night for a movie I've never heard of.
Who's Jessica Chastain? What was the movie?
The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
That's not real. And also it's pronounced Tina.
Here's my only rule for us making jokes about the Oscars last night, okay? And specifically, this is the thing that, maybe here's your fun think piece. The only things I definitively knew about the Oscars last night, I was not watching live. I'm a millennial, okay? They just missed me, I guess. I don't know. I'll watch some award shows. I don't know. I bought the new Kirby game last night, and so I played that for a little while. And then while the slap was happening, the slappening was going on, Renee and I were watching...
Starring Mark Wahlberg.
Renee and I were watching a Polygon video about the origins of Kirby. That's where I was at, just in terms of my media consumption last night. I've been mainlining basketball for these last 2 weeks, and I just didn't have I had no particular interest in the Oscars. I do love movies, and I like to watch the ones that are like critically acclaimed, but I just haven't this year at all. So I wasn't that interested. But I saw that clip in several languages from several angles, including the still shots, and I know Will Smith won for Best Actor like 45 minutes later. That is what I know about the Oscars last night. Here is my ruling, though. Okay, I need a gavel. I think we've got a sound effect somewhere deep in the system. I wouldn't even sweat it. I'm going to do, don't worry about it, Rudy. I don't even know if it's in there. I've got a tape container and a wooden console. I can do my own gavel.
Yeah, nothing popped up for gavel.
I think it's somewhere in Cool Edit. Don't even worry about it. It is deep in the system. Here's my ruling for you tonight, America. You will not get me to deliver a self-righteous opinion about that interaction. That's my gavel. I will not do it.
But the kids, Josh.
No, but it's easy. It's not, you can do it, I think, not self-righteously, pretty easily, and then get back to laughing at the funny things.
That he should be in prison? It was assault. Schefter should have tweeted assault last
Someone
night.
just retweeted that original tweet, and it was very funny, but Schefter should have capitalized.
He should have tweeted that out.
He would have if someone's agent would have texted him and told him to, but that would have been what it would have required.
I just looked up at ESPN, and the bottom line was Giants GM. I thought it said, "I'm not slapping Saquon Barkley." It was, "I'm not shopping Saquon Barkley," but now slapping's in my head, so.
Maybe,
I mean, it's a smart move.
Maybe I would not slap.
Do not slap.
I would not
Saquon
slap
Barkley.
Saquon Barkley under any circumstances. Here's the ruling. Okay, try to keep up with me, everybody. This is a pretty intellectually difficult one. Don't make fun of. Well, actually, I'll draw a hard line in the sand. Don't make fun of anyone's health conditions or disabilities, right, Rudy? Under any circumstances.
Never have, never will.
Just you say that, but I did think it was weird that whenever I walked into the studio today, you just started breaking open pixie sticks and throwing them at me. I tell you again, that's not how it works. But
How
no,
it works, Josh?
Having diabetes.
I don't see any form of beaties.
You don't see illness.
I don't see illnesses.
You're just you have transcended, so progressive. You have transcended seeing illnesses. And you're so brave for it.
I treat all people the same. Terribly, but the same.
Good healthy people, bad sick people like me. All people, you know?
I make everybody just pound a pound of sugar
Yeah.
upon my interactions with them.
That's right.
Regardless of their condition.
Regardless of who you meet. And that's that right there, Rudy, that's the important. That might have been accidentally poetic. That might have been accidentally really on the nose. But that's right. Every person you see, and this is why your eyes are so wide open, man. You don't see anything. You don't see anything.
My eyes are very wide open because of all the sugar that I pound.
Right,
but
your pupils are the entire width of your eyeballs. No, every person you meet, you give them a regular Coca-Cola and you say, chug this before I'll talk to you. And look, man, 90% of the people you interact with are like, oh, thanks, dude. But whenever you force me to do it, it becomes a medical emergency.
I wouldn't know. I don't see emergencies.
So here's the ruling. Don't make fun of people's medical conditions. I assume that Chris Rock knew that Jada Pinkett Smith had alopecia. I don't know. And if he didn't, he probably should say that. I don't know. Maybe he has. Maybe I've missed something. But look, I would say don't make fun of people's health conditions, particularly if they have shown some inclination of being sensitive to it. Also, don't hit. Am I on the right side of self-righteousness? Hey, just don't hit. Now, look, I will say Chris Rock's job right there is to be funny and to make jokes. And the Oscars are largely a platform for making jokes at the expense of other famous people. He probably didn't even write that joke. He probably got slapped for a joke that someone else wrote. But I'm not saying the joke was funny or in good taste. It was neither. None of us are here talking about Chris Rock's poor joke, though. If it's just a joke and it pans over to Will Smith, who's just chuckling, Jada Pinkett Smith not chuckling, whatever. Will Smith's gotten pretty well toasted over the last 10 years of him making After Earth and memes as his marriage has been very much hung out in public to dry. I'm sure he's, carried some weight with him. I just resisted the urge to make several jokes about the apparent state of their relationship. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to get slapped by Rudy.
Big Will Smith stan.
But none of us would be talking as this is true for every time Ricky Gervais has ever hosted an award show. You might talk about a devastating joke for like a day, but this is going to live on in live television history because of the thing that Will Smith did. Stand up for your people. Yell from the heckling at the Oscars for me would be right there. I'm like, you know what? You're Will Smith. Somebody in the balcony should not be heckling during the Oscars. But if you're Will Smith and you want to heckle, keep my wife's name out your bleeping mouth from the front row there.
Are normal people allowed at the Oscars?
I'm saying sound directors shouldn't heckle. You know what I mean? Like,
Gotcha.
You got to be an A1 celebrity. If you walk up on that stage and everyone in the building knows who you are, then maybe you get that ability to become a character from the peanut gallery.
Gotcha.
If you're there on your first supporting actor nomination, I would sit with it personally. I'm going to get back to me personally, though, in a second, because I've got angles on this one. If he would have even walked up and like grabbed the mic and then said something devastating about Chris Rock, really bold of you to come up here and make fun of my bald wife as the guy whose bank account was most notably filled out by playing a zebra in the Madagascar series. There's room. There's room for some ha-has amongst formerly friends.
Don't forget about the great trilogy that he did. Every actor's got a trilogy, right? Like
Better than the Madagascar trilogy?
Oh, yes. Every actor's got that trilogy that they will go down, like it's written on your tombstone.
Yeah.
Grown-ups.
I didn't know they made a third one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent.
Didn't see that one in theaters. Definitely saw the first one in theaters. Think I saw the second one in theaters. Definitely did not see the third one in theaters.
Were those up? Was that one up for an Oscar last night? Grown Ups 3?
I mean, Grown Ups 3 came out like a decade ago, I think. So
Lifetime Achievement Award last night?
We're getting there.
For the franchise?
We're getting there. It's
they did
like
Godfather last night, right?
Yeah, it's like Godfather, Hobbits, Grown Ups.
Grown Ups 3, 1, 2, and 3, the trilogy. Box set.
Yeah.
Steelbook.
Collector's editions, obviously.
Got to.
The thing that's so great about that franchise is it's really the main trilogy for like 5 different actors.
Right.
Like
right.
it's not just
no, to live on
one
forever.
actor's trilogy. It is like 5 actors trilogy. Jeez.
Most of the chats so far are about. I had this thought from Ryan, who also, by the way, I have a package that's been mailed in here to the station from Ryan. I'm going to unbox that for the first time later. I'm not showing it in the Twitch frame because I'm not trying to accidentally show anybody's addresses. You can see a box though. It's
Ryan
a
lives
decent
at
sized box.
555 5th 5 Street.
If you can guess the state, I'll give him up.
Fiverr, Oklahoma.
Don't think any of those are real places. We'll unbox that later, but Ryan and G.E. Metzel on Twitch are debating if Veach is going to, if Brett Veach should trade up for a wide receiver. I promise we're going to talk a bunch of Chiefs tonight.
Now, I saw a report today from somebody who seemed very reliable, whose name I've already forgotten. 'Cause
Same.
I don't think I had ever seen his name before.
Nope,
Did
a lot of
Twitter
followers though. Yep, over 100,000. Saw this too.
Yeah, who said the Chiefs will not trade up.
I've never been more convinced that they will. Not that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but that like Brett Veach texted this guy and was like, "Hey, tell everyone we're not going to trade up." He's like, "Oh, cool,
Yeah.
you're not going to trade up," and then Veach never responded in clarification of that. We'll talk about that a bunch. We got Matt Derrick at 8. We'll talk to him, Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, about everything that's happened in this last week of Chiefs news. And then also some Final Four, some KU with our friend Derek Johnson from KLWN at 9 tonight. Because the college basketball has been fun. It's not all been good basketball, but there's been some fun stuff. I feel like my only regret is not talking more about Remy Martin before the tournament. I feel like it was one of the only things about this KU team that really enticed me heading into the tournament. I only wish we would have talked about him more, personally. But we'll talk to Matt and Derek at 8 and 9, respectively. Plus, I'll give you kind of where I'm at on all of the Chiefs receiver room situation stuff. I just think it would not surprise me if at least one moment of every segment for the entirety of the show tonight has something to do with Will Smith, Chris Rock, or general slapping.
I think he should have to give up his award.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Oscar, or just pick an award, like a Kids' Choice Award from like the...
I mean, specifically the Oscars, I think should take the Oscars award away because I think they've done a very good job throughout their history of being like, oh, this person did something that's like unbecoming.
Yeah.
So we're going to take away his award.
Sure.
Like a director who may or may not have won like 71 of those awards. Who the Oscar surely took them all away.
Boy, this is not only is...
Do you know who this was?
Well, so not only is your commentary so cutting there,
Yeah.
it's also that I can't tell you of my pick of directors.
I saw this tweet today.
I don't know if that's
was,
a Woody Allen tweet or if that's a Harvey Weinstein tweet.
Yeah, nailed it. The second one, yeah. I saw somebody point this out today, how there were like rumors about Will Smith possibly having to give it up because it was
Don't Reggie Bush Will Smith for this one.
unbecoming of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And it's just like you still like let Harvey Harvey Weinstein got 71 of those bad boys, and like
71?
yeah, which that blew my mind.
That feels
and
like a lot.
That report never came out.
I'm guessing that there's a bunch of little gold statues in some room.
A lot of awards of one award to win.
That really is. You got a lot of duplicates at that point. You don't need 71 Pokemon cards. What are you doing with 71 Oscars? I will say this. Maybe we could go ahead and land in on, let's not let Harvey Weinstein hold on to all these. Let's get those. Let's melt those suckers down and, I don't know, do literally anything else with them. It's just bonkers. The thing for me that I actually do care about in the conversation of it all, and look, I don't really want to do the think pieces, although I do think it would be funny if it was Timothée Chalamet who walked up and smacked The Rock. Or not. Whoa, hold on. I misspoke.
Would be funny though.
But I might have landed in a better place.
Would be pretty good.
If you replace Chris Rock with The Rock and Will Smith with Will I Am, how does that go? I need a funnier, famous Will.
I mean, I think it would probably end in like a beat and a song. Now we got a new music video.
I think you're right.
Like I don't think
Turn
any
this into art.
interaction with will.i.am doesn't end with you just like bouncing your head a little bit, just enjoying life, just singing with them.
It might be
I just don't think it's possible.
It might be will.i.am's head bopping down the stairs though, because The Rock
possibly.
has just thrown him down it.
I just feel like if you meet will.i.am, anybody who meets who encounters will.i.am is just smiling and having a good time.
Nights like last night are why it's gonna always be really hard for any of us to quit Twitter, like just cold turkey, because last night, and I wasn't even watching the Oscars live. Oh, you know what? Actually, when that was happening, we were watching one of the My Brother and Me TV show episodes with a commentary track. That's what we're actually watching at that time. So I couldn't even watch the video with the audio on because we were listening to anyway. It's all convoluted. But scrolling through Twitter when every single tweet is about the same thing for like an hour it's a kind of a beautiful communal experience. It's when social media does feel social again and not just like the place that everyone goes to hawk their wares. It's also why days like today are the reasons we all remember that we should delete Twitter, because it's just people like, here are my thoughts on the events that transpired last night.
Chris Rock's a better man than me because I would have fought him right then and
I
there.
would have fought Will Smith on stage in front of millions of people on television. Also, we all agreed on this one. Whole class checked in. Results are back. Chris Rock, good chin.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Rock he took it. I don't think his feet moved, which for me would be, I don't know if you're going to fall off your feet off a good slap. Unsurprisingly, I've not been in a lot of fights. But I feel like if you get slapped really hard, at the very least, he's standing there in presenter mode. He doesn't have a wide stance, right? He's not ready to pass block, okay? If you're standing there in presenter stance and you get slapped with a full body like that, I think your feet moving is the sign that you have been staggered. And Chris Rock just kind of took it.
At the very least, like, taken back by, like, so much surprise, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, what just happened?
Because at what point would you think that Will Smith is coming up on stage to slap the bleep out of me?
At no point.
The minute
People
after
were-
the hand has fallen off my face would be the first thing that would cross my mind.
There were people like, well, where was security on this? Why would security do anything when they see Will Smith walking up on stage?
Correct.
With security probably been like, yeah, of course Will Smith is on stage because he's Will Smith.
He's Will Smith.
And this is the Oscars.
He's going to be on stage later tonight when he wins this award.
Of course, he's supposed to be on stage. There's probably a bit going on. When I heard that Will Smith had slapped Chris Rock, my initial thought was just simply, like it was
Some sort of
it was a
bit.
bit they were doing, right?
Totally.
Not like this was all fake set up, but like everybody, he slaps them, everybody laughs, they laugh together. Of course, that's not what happened.
No.
But like that was my first initial reaction. So if you're security, of course that's what you're thinking.
My way of finding out was uniquely terrifying to me. I am generally as plugged in as possible to the general goings-on of the Kansas City Chiefs, particularly with Arrowhead Report. We got sometimes breaking news means you start working as the news hits. With the radio show, I want to know what happens as soon as it happens so I can get my tweets off and be prepping and know what's going on for the next radio show. But in the moment of Sunday night at 10 p.m. or whatever it was, I got a push notification. I have a very small number of Twitter accounts where every time they tweet, I get a notification. It's like Rappaport, Schefter, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, a couple others. Herbie, I got the I don't know if I have Matt Derrick still turned on anymore. I need to double check that before I have him on tonight. I'm not sure. But they are for news alerts. I actually think I turned off Rappaport's because he tweets too much stuff that's not just news anymore. Hey, stick to news. They just tweet out video clips and stuff. Well, I'm not sure that you should like any of the super major national insiders because we've all gotten a better look at how that sausage gets made in the last year, I would say, last 12 months or so.
The last 2 weeks.
Especially the last 2 weeks.
1 week, I guess, maybe, really.
But I got a push notification, and it just says Patrick Mahomes tweeted, bro, ... If it was a quote tweet, I couldn't see it at the time. And I see that, and I go, mother...
Oh, no.
What now? Can I have Sunday night?
Can I just play Kirby?
Can I just play Kirby without Travis Kelce spontaneously announcing his retirement or getting traded to the Raiders?
He's playing baseball now. You saw that, right?
No.
No, he was just at the Brewer spring training.
Oh, was he? That's kind of fun.
So, yeah, I think it was the GM gave him a jersey.
Travis Kelce, Packers have some cap room now. Man, it's all happening. Damn. Tough way to find out. But I saw that. I was like, oh, God, like it just could be anything. And at the very least, usually Patrick Mahomes tweets about sports stuff like that sometimes. It's like, I don't think there's any sports. I think I've watched all the sports. I've watched Suns Sixers. Best record in the sport.
Could have been about the
locked up a while ago.
Christian Pulisic, U.S. men's national team.
That's true. I was
actually. I think that came much like an hour or two later than that game, but still.
I was loosely following that. Yeah, that was going on, but
that game was fun, man.
I just see Patrick Mahomes tweet "bro" with a bunch of dots. I'm terrified, so I click through that, and then I'm opened up to everything else on Twitter, and my heart rate goes back down and then back up again because it was kind of hilarious. We can all say that it was hilarious without glorifying.
No, it was assault.
Violence, right? Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph.
Time service, like sentence.
Maybe
parole after 20.
Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph with his helmet was funny. Also, here's the other thing. Judd Apatow got dragged for his tweet saying he could have killed him because it was like a blind rage. I think Judd Apatow's point. Far be it from me I don't know why I'm defending Judd Apatow's tweets, but he said something along the lines of like he could have killed him. I think the point was blind rage. Maybe he could have gone up there and just blacked out and just Fight Club. I want to destroy something beautiful. Him. I've seen movies from before the year 2010. But he didn't. Mason Rudolph was fine. Chris Rock is fine. We've got to be able to laugh at things. You were going to say something else, Rudy. I just wanted to. That's my official stance. I'm going to laugh at things. You can't stop me.
No, you're fine. I was genuinely like it was just you made the joke, and I was like I wanted to double check, make sure Kelce was on the Brewers Instagram. He was, and the first link though was Packers subreddit Kelce to Green Bay confirmed. Because of course.
Can you guys imagine?
I checked that he wasn't in Milwaukee. He was in Phoenix, where the Brewers have their spring training.
Yeah, the connections. Still.
So he's going to the Cardinals.
All of that is bad news.
Maybe Mahomes, Kelce for Kyler Murray,
and Cliff Kingsbury. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce for Cliff Kingsbury.
I think part of the trade, though, it's Cliff and Mahomes getting back together.
Okay, wow. All right, fair enough. Maybe Kelce then ends up just having to go to Jacksonville so you can get Christian Kirk back to reunite with Kyler Murray, the real key to Kyler Murray's success.
And since we lose a Hall of Fame tight end, we needed J.J. Watt, a Hall of Fame tight end.
Wow, also a great point. Red zone threat. Anyway, I had fun with the internet last night. I think that's about all you can ask for at this point. It's more fun than I had finding out about the Chiefs news early last week. We've gotten a little bit more here and there. Ronald Jones also now a member of the Chiefs. Some of these guys are we think we're going to have a pretty full slate of shows this week, so we might spend some more time on some of the smaller bit pieces, but I do want to talk about the receivers in particular because obviously that's a huge, seismic, franchise-altering shift from the last time we did an episode of this show.
Quick thing. Ronald Jones, much like Juju Smith-Schuster, feel like they're 28, still just 24.
Yeah.
I was like, Ronald Jones is like 29 by now. Like
I legit thought that.
He's a veteran running back, which, I mean, he's a veteran by the sense he's been in the NFL. No, 24.
If you would have said, now this might be a funny one because I'm thinking this is going to be up there. Yeah, it is. If you would have said that Ronald Jones was like a year younger than Jerick McKinnon, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones is 24. Jerick McKinnon is 29. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 22. Like, Ronald Jones is closer to Clyde than Jerick McKinnon.
I also would have guessed that Clyde was probably like 23. Not that there's a big difference between 22 and 23. 22 is pretty young, though, still.
Ronald Jones is 2 years younger than Darrell Williams. He's 26.
Young man.
This show is so good at just reading football player ages. It's like, these two players are 2 years different in age. Who would have thought? Almost entirely sports. Pew, 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 pew. That's the show. I think that's acceptable. I'm going to try to help you cope, maybe me cope. Maybe I will make you feel better. Maybe I'll make you feel worse about Tyreek Hill being traded away and where the Chiefs receiver room lands now. We'll talk about that next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Okay, one more. This guy's as old as this guy's stat. Cam McGusty, who you may have paid attention to during the Miami KU Elite 8 game. We'll talk more KU definitely by 9 o'clock tonight. We'll talk to Derek Johnson of KLWN. Cam McGusty. This is from Troy Mashier on Twitter. Cam McGusty was the same recruiting year as Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo.
Whoa.
That is incredible. Cam McGusty is in year 6, I believe, collegiately.
Correct, yes.
From the same recruiting year as Jason Tatum and Bam Clearly, this bit is not one that I ever have to fake excitement for. This one just gets me every time. Do you know Byron Pringle's 28?
Miami's got a couple of because they also have obviously Charlie
Moore, school
Man,
5,
no
school
wonder,
4, year 5.
Yeah, school 4, 5th school he's been associated. It's year 6 for Charlie Moore. 5th school he's been associated with because he committed to Memphis but never went to Memphis.
Okay. I made the meme. I don't know if
yeah.
you saw my little upgrade meme that I made, just waiting in the wings for Charlie Moore to do something against KU.
It now makes sense why Miami was good because they have a bunch of 28-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds.
That's right. Yes.
It's quite literally men playing against children.
Yes. I'm not sure that I would buy stock in Miami becoming a persistent superpower.
No.
Because all of their current best players have to go retire and take care of their adult children.
I was going to say, I assume most of their NIL deals are with AARP.
Yes, that's right. That's 100% right. Okay, look. I'm gonna give you my 30,000-foot view. We'll have some zoomed in stuff. We'll talk about Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and what this means for the Chiefs in the upcoming draft. They have the 29th and 30th overall pick now. But I gotta frame this up in a way that feels a little bit disjointed even for me. For myself, because we talked on this show, maybe as recently as last Monday, but certainly other points in the early offseason. We talked about this some last offseason. The Chiefs roster, generally speaking, is a little too expensive and a little too old, a little too top-heavy for my liking. I don't like it when the Chiefs trade draft picks to give contracts to veteran players. I do not want to argue about do the Chiefs win a Super Bowl without Frank Clark if they use all those picks and money differently. Do they win more than one? Do they win 0? I don't. That is a purely hypothetical at this point that I am not excited about arguing about. So whatever you believe in that is up to you. I really don't care. But that trade undeniably has been a disaster from 2020 on. Okay, 2019, they won a Super Bowl. I get it. But even whenever you hit for a hot window on a player like that, you see how difficult it is for that investment to be a good one. We talked about, trade value. Trading a player or for a player means paying them twice if they're also due a new contract. I told you definitely 2 weeks ago, we talked about it. I don't like when the Chiefs do that. Frankly, you can open that up to say, I'd like it if they did the opposite more often. Generally speaking, I will tell you that even though the draft is a dart throw, you can get really good at throwing darts, but you're doing it from far away, and by the 6th round, there's 40-mile-an-hour side-to-side wind that's making that dart throw a whole lot less accurate than you'd like for it to be. Even though I understand the draft is largely a gamble, certainly skill-based, but it's a gamble, I would rather the Chiefs use more picks where they're at or trade back and acquire more picks so you get more dart throws. You can buy low on more stocks or whatever it may be. You get more dart throws. And then even if you don't hit the bullseye, but you just hit the board somewhere, maybe that player can be a role player for you for the next 3 years on a rookie contract. The most valuable built-in thing in the sport are those rookie contracts. Now, if you're from a team-building perspective, the most valuable version of that is, of course, a young quarterback who's performing very well. That's why the Chargers doing what they're doing right now in terms of their all-in strategy makes sense to me. They might regret some of these moves in 2 or 3 years, but if you get a few years of your quarterback on a rookie contract playing excellent football, you should take it. Might be a fair criticism of the Chiefs for giving one of Patrick Mahomes' rookie years to Alex Smith as a cost control. And again, you can play the game of, well, they've been very good since then, so maybe don't mess with it. Totally fine.
They also gave another one of those rookie contract years to
Bob Sutton. Yep, 100%. Exactly.
Which might have been the bigger crime.
Definitely the bigger crime. I'm not sure the Alex Smith thing was a crime. It just might not have been the best. In the multiverse of all your options, that was a top 80%, choice to make, I think. Maybe higher than that, because, again, Patrick Mahomes is who he is now. I don't want to relitigate that one. It's just something I think about, in the darkness of night when I'm alone. wondering about things could have been different. But the Chiefs are now in this era where their quarterback has a massive contract. He's worth every penny of it. Not every quarterback is. Kirk Cousins isn't. Deshaun Watson might not be, even aside from the fact that he obviously should not have been awarded with that contract. Justin Herbert is eventually going to get a huge deal. It is harder to be elite as a young quarterback whenever you do have that giant cap hit because the talent around you is going to be lessened.
That Justin Herbert deal is going to make Josh Allen's and Patrick Mahomes deal look like just a bargain.
He's going to get a share of the stadium. He's got to, 100% agree with that. But the Chiefs are now in this point where, this is a conversation we had sometime earlier this offseason with Jordan. We were talking about the idea of the Chiefs' windows and their eras. And I said, look, he said, last year was the end of an era for the Chiefs. And I said, I honestly disagree. That was sort of under the assumption of if Tyrann Mathieu's not back, Frank Clark's not back. One of those has gone. One of them will be here this year. But what I said was, I think the first era of Patrick Mahomes' career is the era with Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. That era is over now. Now, right now, we might be in a middle era. How much longer are Andy Reid and Travis Kelce going to be the best in the world at the things they do? Could be 3 more years. Could be over. I don't think it's over. I think Travis Kelce has aged incredibly at that position. I think he's going to age like how we viewed Antonio Gates as aging, whereby presumably Antonio Gates' early 50s, he was still catching 6 touchdowns a year just against the Chiefs. Travis Kelce's unbelievable. He has gas left in the tank, all of that. I think Andy Reid is going to have maybe the most innovative offseason since putting Patrick Mahomes in charge of this offense, because this is going to change dramatically. I think Andy Reid's going to do a good job with that. I think having Eric Bieniemy around is a good thing. I think having Matt Nagy around is a good thing for all of the evolutions this offense is going to have to find now. But also, I don't know, what if Andy Reid doesn't have all the same tricks in his bag because Tyreek Hill's not out there anymore? What if Travis Kelce and Andy Reid both retire in 2 or 3 years? I don't think either of them are going to. We might be in a little interlude right now in terms of eras. Or maybe we're going to have the next era be just Mahomes, Reid, Kelce, supporting cast. And then eventually Andy Reid and Travis Kelce are going to retire before Patrick Mahomes does. You're talking about era 3 over there, I guess. But one of them is ended because Tyreek Hill's not here anymore. Going back to the draft thing, okay? Generally speaking, I think it is better to trade your players 1 year too soon than 1 year too late. It does not seem like the contract extension was going to happen for Tyreek Hill. Although, looking at his numbers with the Dolphins, I'm a little surprised the Chiefs were not here to match this deal for reasons that I'll explain in a minute. But even as I look at this contract and think I might have given that up, I also understand not knowing what Tyreek Hill is going to look like at age 31, and if you're going to want to have $28 million against the cap for a 31-year-old Tyreek Hill. Maybe not. I probably would have given Tyreek Hill this deal. Because I say, generally speaking, I love having a dozen draft picks. The Chiefs have a dozen draft picks in this year's draft, not to mention more next year. They've got 28 and 30. They've got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. What did I say?
28.
I meant 29 and 30. They're back to back.
I knew you knew, but it was also, I didn't want,
You corrected it before Twitch and Twitter did.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Somebody's in their car screaming it's 29 as he drives off the bridge.
Yes. Eyes on the road. I like the accumulation of draft picks. I don't mind selling higher on a receiver. The specific processes of this confused me. Because they were working on a contract extension for a long time, and eventually it broke bad. Now, Tyreek Hill, I think we even know from last year in that weird, very short-lived sort of drama of, he didn't restructure his contract when it should not have meant any of his money actually changing. It just would have been how it's on the books for the Chiefs. Well, he didn't agree to it. Now we know why the Chiefs apparently are not restructuring Patrick Mahomes' deal this year. It's because they cleared up some space that they aren't going to be able to use. This isn't trading Tyreek Hill for 2 first-round picks and doing it before free agency begins so you can go be in on Allen Robinson or whatever. This sort of feels like selling medium. Dolphins gave up a lot. Chiefs get their cap space. But for who? For what? This isn't beginning of free agency cap space. You get these draft picks. That's awesome. You're going to be worse in 2022. I completely understand this as a long-term team-building move. Everything that I actually think about team building would lead me to this same solution to the problem. I think this is good. This is a good trade for the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. It makes them worse right now, though. And that's a hump that I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting over, even though I am very much process over results. I am long view over short view. Run it back, and then a luxury pick of a running back are a couple of things that have made
wide receiver.
That made me very upset for a period of time. The running back more so than the running it back. I understand the whole run it back campaign. But the biggest frustration of the Clyde pick wasn't that he couldn't contribute in 2020 or 2021. He could, right? But it was, you don't think you're going to want to have a young receiver who's been in the system for a couple of years down the line? Which right now, what does T. Higgins do for this room? What does Michael Pittman do for this room? You've heard me play the hits on this one. I got my sad little tiny little violin out right now. I'm playing a sad song. You've heard this song before. But it's that is a pick with a total lack of vision. It's like, we don't really need anything right now. Let's take a running back just for fun. Zoinks. Am I in Scooby-Doo? Where does this register? I don't know. The Tyreek Hill trade is something setting you up better for the long term, and maybe Tyreek Hill's fall is coming. But he was incredible last year, even whenever he wasn't using his most dominant trait, being his downfield speed. Like that quickness, the short mid-range stuff that he was able to do. Man, I was excited to see him with Juju Smith-Schuster in this offense. I'll talk more about the offense post Tyreek Hill later in the show. But the specifics of losing Tyreek Hill for 2022, even as someone who would subscribe to the logic of this move, I'm having a hard time with the specifics of it because I say all this stuff about generally speaking, and Tyreek Hill is not general. Tyreek Hill is a one of one. This is not even me telling you that they made a horrible mistake. Just telling you that it's going to be really difficult to patch this offense up in 2022, and that not seeing that number 10 running and catching passes from Patrick Mahomes is going to be a harshly different, and I'm pretty sure less fun reality that we're going to have to look to. What they've done after that, we'll see. Some interesting moves, but in the immediate, kind of bums me out. I get it, but it kind of bums me out. It's a real slap.
At JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already.
Hey, KC, this is Jack Johnson from The Shift on ESPN Kansas City to tell you about the law firm of Garrettson and Toff. They handle the most complex felony, federal, or state criminal defense cases. What sets them apart, though, from the average criminal defense firm is that they were
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Human Torch says, I was too old and didn't smoke weed, so I'm out on SpongeBob.
I was exactly the right age, and 13 was
I don't know.
that's when I smoked the most weed.
With Joshua Brisco.
My 13th birthday party was pirate theme. My 14th birthday party theme, the Devil's Lettuce and SpongeBob.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I have no memory of that conversation at all.
Same.
Must have been all the weed. Memory loss.
It's a memory loss drug.
I do hope that everyone was able to pick up immediately there that everything that we just proclaimed about the Devil's Lettuce is exclusively from one episode of The Office. But that's the bit that Rudy and I were just doing.
Oh, yes, Cree's like, what is this? This is Northern Lights cannabis. No, it's marijuana.
Here's one more Tyreek Hill thing before we talk to Matt Derrick. I want to put in your mind. This is the strange thing about this contract. Okay, so the cap hits from 2022 to 25 are about $7 million, 31, about 25, 28, and then a 50 that's totally fake money. That's just it's basically a void year to stretch out the signing bonus. Outside of that, though, you get the Chiefs could have been looking at sub 20, around 20 per year on those 4 years, a little dead money after that. That's the thing that for me is a little bit surprising. Of like, are we talking about $10 or $12 million difference? Why is that where the Chiefs drew the line? Was a relationship strained so hard in there between Rosenhaus and Hill and the Chiefs that it was no longer about that money? And I'm really not sure about that answer. That's something I want to ask Matt Derrick about. Along with everything else, it's been a busy time for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's also a fragile time for Matt Derrick. I'll explain why that's true next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports
I gotta say, I'm Venmoing Rudy $1 right now.
with Joshua Brisco.
Memo here, Matt, Derek knows things.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's Matt Derek time. Lord knows we have plenty to talk about from the Chiefs side of things, just from where we were all at last Monday. Some things have changed with the Chiefs, but also Matt Derek. Of course, you can follow on Twitter at Matt Derek. Check him out at ChiefsDigest.com. I do appreciate you joining us on what I know is a very difficult day for you personally, Matt. Wordle was straight up catching bodies all day today, and I know that your streak was a casualty, and I am really sorry for your loss.
72-1. That's where I stand.
Oh, you were at 72?
Yeah.
Oh.
72-1.
I won't spoil it in case anybody's waiting for the last 4 hours of the day to do their Wordle, but it was one of those tricky little bleepers where you got some options and there's just nothing you can do to narrow down your choices. So yesterday's word was nymph. Nymph is a great Wordle word because it's tricky. There's only one sort of sometimes vowel in there. It feels like you're solving something. Today's word stinks.
It does. No, it does. And I won't spoil it for anybody. But at the same time, I feel like as a consumer, notification, I should just say, don't overthink it.
Okay. Yeah, I won't make you expound on that any because I know the word and the processes and the issues of it all. And if anyone's holding out those last few hours, let this be your final reminder. But
all I know is the New York Times stinks.
They've really ruined all of this for us.
It kind of felt like cheating a little bit.
It does. There's nothing you can do.
Because at first it's like, okay, well, there's in my head when I did get it right just by pure luck.
Sure.
And I think I ended up with 4. It's one of those words where you can change. You know what I mean? I didn't realize how many options there were.
You got a lot of options
until Lebo even started mentioning some of the other ones that I didn't try. I was like, this feels like cheating.
I was literally down to my last turn and had eliminated all but 2 options. I had a 50-50 chance. I had a coin flip. And once again, somebody in Kansas City gets screwed by a coin flip.
And I don't really care what they do for overtime rules. They need to change 50-50 Wordle rules, though. That is abhorrent and disrespectful to those of us who need Wordle to really get our day started on the right foot.
That's why if you're not a complete and total snob like me, that you have converted me to a Cordle fan for life.
I love
if you're
Cordle.
If you're not playing Cordle, I don't know. Now, was it Rudy who tweeted out
I play Squirtle.
Yes.
Yes.
I went to the Squirtle website and I had no idea what was happening.
Did you just type Pikachu once and then close the page?
I didn't even know if that's what I was supposed to do or not.
Yes, it is Pokemon Wordle. I am better at it than I think I want to admit, but every now and then I have some struggles. But sometimes, like, my thought process on Squirtle, like how I break everything down, frequently is better than how I do it on Wordle.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about me, but
I did try. Is it Warble one day? That's the one where you try and guess the random baseball player.
Wardle, yeah, WAR for wins above replacement. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I gave Podal a chance, which is the NBA one, and there's an audio one that's kind of fun, but I almost always need multiple guesses to get to that, so it's just okay.
I didn't exactly cheat doing the Warble one or whatever it's called, Wordle. I mean, but then again, I did, once I narrowed it down to a handful of suspects, I was like, okay, well, let me find out, what left-handed center fielder that also throws left is in the American League East.
Right, yeah, I don't...
And then, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if there's a historical sort of arrowheadle. I don't know what the URL is going to be, but like if there is a specific Chiefs-based one, I think we would be able to do that without the help of Google. But whenever it's down to, a Gen 8 fire psychic type Pokemon that's taller than a Jigglypuff but shorter than an Onix.
Gen 5 and 6 is where that's my struggle territory.
I might. If they had a Star Wars one, I would probably try that.
Hold on. Star Wordle has to exist, right? It's too easy.
Feels likely.
Star Wars Wordle. Swordle. It's wordle.starwars.guide.
Wow. Okay.
There's also starwordle.com. Yeah, okay. I don't know if any of these are actually good or not, but I've got the tab open.
Well, we've officially jumped the shark on this thing, haven't we?
I mean, that was so long ago, man. I don't even feel bad about it anymore. So legitimately, we talked on Monday, right? We did the show on Monday, and then we would have had a show Wednesday, but I was off because Renee and I were going to St. Louis to try to see glass animals again. I didn't go to the hospital, but something worse happened. The Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. More shocking than me having diabetes, unbeknownst to me, was the Chiefs deciding to move on from one of the genuine, absolute pillars of this era of Chiefs football. Now, look, I'll show you my hand a little bit here. You probably know how I generally feel about team building. I want to have draft picks. I want to have rookie contracts. I am happy to move on from a veteran a year too soon, other than a year too late if I got a pick. But this one has been tough for me because it's not just your fill in the blank 28-year-old veteran. It's Tyreek bleeping Hill. So I mean, take me back to Wednesday when that report starts coming through. Were you surprised? Had you caught on to some of the hashtag rumblings that maybe that was on the table? Walk me through your Wednesday.
Yes. I got up. I was on the Border Patrol that morning, and I probably flat out just said, "Start trading Tyreek Hill. Come on." I mean, they're gonna get that extension done. They'll free up some salary cap space. Everything will be happy and fine. And I'd been up early enough that morning that I didn't needed my mid-morning nap.
Yeah. Oh,
so
no.
I laid down. I was at my computer. I was falling asleep. I'm like, I can't stay awake. So 9:30, I'm like, I'm just gonna go take a quick power nap.
Yep.
And then right about 10 o'clock, I got a phone call. Tyreek Hill's on the market. I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah. They're like, no, serious. He's on the market. Go look. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then what? Less than 90 minutes later,
Yep.
it's done. I mean, clearly it was just leaked out at 10 o'clock to lay the groundwork and preface for what was to come. But honestly, I almost feel like that we're all just suckers for not seeing it coming. The Devontae Adams deal, I mean, it's pretty clear that I think that Tyreek and his representation to a degree treaded water just to see what was going to happen. And clearly with what we've seen, and I've heard come out afterwards, I guess we probably should have all seen it when that Devontae Adams deal got done, that this just complicated Tyreek's deal that much more.
So the specifics of the salary, this is one thing that I have gotten caught up on and been a little bit confused by. So that last year of the deal, $50 million cap hit or whatever is funny money. It's basically a void year. You've got a signing bonus out there, but none of the rest of that's guaranteed. But then the 4 years of the deal are about $6.5 million, $31 million, $25 million, and $28 million cap hits. The way that's structured, the money getting pushed down the line and everything, if you would have just shown me that as 3 years of new money there and down to $6.5 million in 2022, said, hey, would the Chiefs are the Chiefs the team signing Tyreek Hill to this deal? I think I probably would have said yes, especially because we know they were legitimately trying to work on it, I think, pre-Devontae Adams or whatever. I don't know. I can't pinpoint where the disconnect happened, though. Is this over a few $1 million? Is this Tyreek Hill wanting to go to Miami? Is it him being done in Kansas City? Is it Drew Rosenhaus? What do you see as being the thing the straw that broke the camel's back on this one?
I mean, I feel like there's probably a couple of straws. I mean, one, the Tyreek Hill does kind of come down a couple of different ways. I mean, you can certainly portray this as a 3-year, $72 million deal. Mm-hmm. I know Spotrac, I can never know how to pronounce it for sure.
Me neither.
I mean, they're portraying it as a 4-year, $95 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
With that fit, and nobody thinks that 5th year is real. I mean, right. Yeah, that's just there for entertainment purposes. But it's also there so that Tyreek Hill can say he got a $120 million contract, is the most expensive wide receiver in the history of the world.
Right.
But however you crack it down, I mean, even if you say 3 years, 72, or I think Drew Rosenhaus has kind of spun it to 3 years, 79, really.
I would say off Spot Track's numbers, which is I just say it fast, I'd give you 4 for 95, even including that 5 years that aren't really going to be there in 2026.
And even if you're just talking about it from a comparable standpoint, which is I was understanding that the Chiefs deal was, and their offer was something similar, more similar to a 5-year deal. It was actually a 3-year deal. And probably something very similar to Devontae Adams, in that the guaranteed money was probably in the 60s. Now, hey, is there a difference between 67 and 72? I mean, that seems doable. I mean, if it was the difference more likely 65 and 79, depending on how you spend that Dolphins deal, it gets to be a little bit wider. I mean, no matter how you slice it, at some point, that's not just one player. I mean, that can be multiple players that you're saying we're not going to sign because we're going to give this Tyreek Hill this money. But then again, at the end of the day, I take a lot of what Tyreek Hill, at face value at his Dolphins press conference, in that I'm not sure that short of offering him $1 million more than the Dolphins, that was even in play for the Chiefs. I mean, I truly think that this was where he wanted to be. I think the notion that Tyreek Hill was going to end up with the Jets, I mean, the Jets seem like the stalking horse for everybody.
Yeah.
They were there to make sure that Tyreek got a better deal out of Miami and that the Chiefs were able to get a better deal out of Miami. I don't think there was never any likelihood of Tyreek Hill, I think, going to New York, for crying out loud. But, I mean, his mom lives there. He's got a house there. I mean, he's a Miami guy. I mean, I think that's where he wanted to be. I mean, I think he's got his ring. There's two things he wanted now. He wanted to be home in Miami, and he wanted to make a bag of money. And he got both.
I think that is, and also the addition of like maybe an extra year there of guaranteed money. I think saying there are a number of straws there, I think is a great explanation for it. Is it unfair of me to wonder why this didn't happen 2 weeks earlier? So some of this freshly found cap space could have been used in the first or second wave of free agency, or is this just? I mean, because what I don't think I believe is that the Chiefs were totally unaware that Miami would have been ideal 2 weeks earlier. Is that I don't know if it's all fair or unfair criticism or not. I just look at this and go, man, it feels like the timing for the Chiefs could have been a lot better.
It could have been, but I think that the Devontae Adams having been up in the air, I think was part of this. And remember, it wouldn't be the first time that Tyreek Hill's contract situation was influenced by somebody else. I mean, remember when the Chiefs inked this extension? It was Michael Thomas, that was out there. It's like, okay, well, Tyreek and Michael Thomas are probably going to sign for similar types of money, and Tyreek Hill ended up being a little bit different. But and I tell you what, there's also another wrinkle to this that I'm not sure was significant, but it was a very odd peculiarity in Tyreek's current contract. And I think it absolutely played an issue in the Chiefs being able to say, because I've heard some Chiefs fans say, hey, why don't you just hold Tyreek's feet to the fire? Have him go ahead and play out this year that he's under contract for. I don't believe that was an option. Because Tyreek's deal, remember, it had a very, very low base salary. So, you could find Tyreek under the new CBA to your heart's content. I mean, he only had like a base salary of like $1 million.
Yeah, you're right.
That was going to be nothing. Two, the biggest part of his salary was in that roster bonus, which I think was like 18.5, something like that. Now, according to the sources, whether these sources are right, but Spotrac is usually, right there on it. That bonus was guaranteed, but it was not payable unless Tyreek Hill was on the Chiefs roster 1 week after the 2023 Super Bowl. So he wasn't getting that bonus until February. So, yeah, under that scenario, if the Chiefs would say, hey, we're going to make Tyreek play this out, there's a really good chance that Tyreek just holds out, the maximum amount, which I think he would have had to come back at week 11 and then play out the season. And, when it's been, we've seen it leaked out, the Chiefs were saying, hey, you know what, they just didn't want the distraction. That's probably one of the distractions, because I don't think that Tyreek Hill was going to be here during the off season or anything else, and he may have held out into the season. And if that's the case, then, why are you holding Tyreek's feet to the fire so you can get a third-round pick 2 years from now when he leaves via free agency. Go ahead and get it done now. Get a windfall, which I think they got certainly a better deal than the Packers got for Devontae Adams, and move on.
Again, I think the logic on that is really good. I also now will take that straight to the thing that I don't know that there's an argument against, which is the Chiefs in 2022 are going to be massively different. And I think it's fair to say, like, objectively worse, right? Again, we can talk. I do want to talk about the team building long term and everything. But if I put a pin in that and say, let's just talk about 2022, we've got Juju Smith-Schuster in the fold now. Marquez Valdez-Scantling obviously added after Tyreek Hill is traded, and he's got some great deep speed, great size, a super unique receiver, I would say, in terms of being 6'4" and among the fastest guys in the sport, but also you don't see him use that size in the intermediate, really. What is the Chiefs' offense going to look like in 2022? Also, now our conversation last week about the Chiefs drafting receiver in the top 50 feels a lot more likely. I think that percentage number might go up now.
Yeah, and maybe this is just me drinking too much of the Andy Reid Kool-Aid and everything. But I have absolutely no problem saying the Chiefs' offense is going to be different this year. It absolutely is.
Definitely.
I mean, Tyreek Hill to anybody else is going to make it a different offense. I'm not ready to say it's going to be better or worse. Because I need to see what happens. But
yeah.
I mean, if there's anybody that can figure this out, Andy Reid. And and there is a case to be made that even with this deal, I mean, if the Chiefs play their cards correctly, hey, they're going to be worse at wide receiver one. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling could have career years. They're still not going to be Tyreek Hill. But could the Chiefs potentially be better at their second, their third, maybe their fourth wide receiver?
Yeah.
Could they be better if they use these draft picks correctly? Could they be better at pass rusher, at edge? Could they be better at cornerback? I mean, and even if it's not in 22, maybe even it's 23. I mean, you've got the potential that the Chiefs play their cards right. They're going to be better at 4 or 5 other positions as a result of this than maybe they were wide receiver one. Now, does that make a difference? I mean, Tyreek's really good. I mean, we know that. I mean, you can't discount that. But at the same time, I mean, guys have different skill sets. And honestly, last year, even with Tyreek Hill, we saw this offense, scuttle at times because teams were familiar with what the Chiefs do. And guess what? Andy Reid now has to do something different.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the Chiefs do on the field this year with Patrick Mahomes and whoever his receiver core is, it's going to be different. And I think that's actually one of the advantages that the Chiefs have is that teams are not going to know what Andy Reid's going to do this year.
I'm picking my examples on this one. It's like, obviously I'm biasing this into my own favor, but like the Frank Clark trade is a deal that I would have loved to be able to undo in a time machine, because you could get better at multiple positions rather than putting all your chips there. On the Tyreek Hill front, same logic, but to steal a word from my friend Seth Kaiser, the gravitational pull of Tyreek Hill is such that I wonder how much better you have to get everywhere else. But again, I actually do like that from like a team building perspective. We talked about this a little bit in the last hour. I love the Juju MVS, as I believe they're being called now, the Dash Bros, which I love. I love the Dash Brothers, and the two different things that they are able to do with their varying and very different skill sets. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like in 2022. I'm excited to see which receiver they add with whichever pick they use on that position first. But you right now are just giving me just sunshine and roses. Like, is there something about this that does worry you? Because I feel like I've learned from your angle on this one, but I did not expect you to be fully just like, yeah, this is actually pretty good.
Oh, I am two sides of this all the way. I mean, I can spin you a tale where this is the right decision for the Chiefs, that they're going to have a better offense and a better defense, and everything's going to be great. I could also spend the next 5 minutes telling you how the Chiefs are going to be a dumpster fire.
Give me this is the end of an era. You gave us 15 great minutes of, hey, this here's why I like this. Give me your couple minutes on end of an era where this goes wrong.
And I say dumpster fire. I really don't believe that. I
Right.
mean, I think Andy Reid. I mean, even with one hand tied behind his back, I think he still goes 9-7 with his team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, 8, 9
He
and
wouldn't.
8.
He wouldn't.
9-8.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I got to go 9-8 now. But yeah. I mean, how did this go wrong? Okay, well, Patrick Mahomes now has one weapon, and everybody in the entire world is going to triple team the heck out of Travis Kelce until he gets 750 yards of offense. Chiefs won't be able to do anything else. I mean, they're going to have the 17th. I mean, and this will look exactly like the Alex Smith offense of 2015 before, it kind of in between Jamal Charles getting hurt and then them winning a bunch of games with their defense.
Too dark. Pull back.
I mean,
too depressed.
Welcome to Game Management with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I feel it in my bones. Okay, sorry, and keep going again. That would hurt.
I mean, yeah, but now I don't know what's going to happen. I can't say with any certainty, and I'm not sure anybody else can either. But I mean, the only thing I can bet on is this offense is going to be different. I think they're probably still at least one piece away from me being able to say with confidence that I think that they can piece this together.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could really use another receiver, just for some depth and for some betting on the, the come a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But because I mean, hey, I'm not completely sold that the Dash brothers are going to make it work. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, it's been a couple of years since he's been Juju Smith-Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Valdez-Scantling is a great deep threat, but if he sees nothing but double bracket coverage and two deep safeties, that's not going to do a lot of good. We've seen that. So, and he's not going to be able, and you're right. I mean, at this point, we haven't seen in his career that he's able to do the same underneath stuff that Tyreek has been able to do. So there's a lot of questions. But, I mean, I've seen enough of Andy Reid to know that he tends to figure these things out. And if I'm a Chiefs fan, that's where I'd put all my faith right now, that Andy Reid's going to figure this out.
Do you think they're going to pick it? If I say just one side or the other here, the Chiefs make two. The Chiefs pick at 29 and 30 this year, or they don't. Which way would you go?
I mean, I will always, I think, bet against Brett Veach picking where he slated the pick.
Yeah.
I mean, that just seems like the safest bet possible.
Yeah, it's free money.
I mean, I feel pretty confident that, right now in that war room that they've got to be circling corner, edge, and receiver as three pretty important pieces. Now, what was it last week? I mean, you have the numbers in front of me, because I think I said something crazy like 11% chance of choosing a receiver or something.
Yeah.
Or just poo-pooed it completely.
I will have to go find I will have to find an old Google Doc, but I will do it here.
It was definitely low.
Yeah, and then they go out and do this, so just make me look like an idiot again.
You didn't say they're gonna trade Tyreek Hill and then not draft a receiver. In fairness, that was a crystal ball I did not ask you to look through. Let's see. What did you say last? I feel like I'm very close to the. Well, these are old Google Docs. It's not loading fast enough. So, or it is. And I just have hit the wrong one. Yeah, 11% sounded about right.
But I think it's much more likely now that they draft a receiver early.
Well, because not only, McCole Hardman and Juju, their deals both go through this year. We found the contract details on Valdez-Scantling. His deal could be a 1 year or a 2 year or a 3 year deal with varying amounts of dead money. It seems very likely it'll be a 2 year deal, but there's some flexibility after one even. There is just this. Maybe this is the thing that's just uncomfortable. Even as someone who was not all in on team run it back, this is by far the most uncertain this team has been on the whole in the Patrick Mahomes era, right?
Yeah, I would certainly say so, because it's going to be the least amount of continuity that they've had.
Yeah.
But then again, you know what? It's the NFL, and continuity it can be nice, but it's not the end-all, be-all.
No, you're right.
Remember, in 2020, the Chiefs had all the continuity in the world. And what team had the least amount of continuity? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep. They made it work. Here's my last thing for you. Hold on, was continuity the word? I forgot to play them. Is Matt gonna use a vocab word game? I wasn't paying attention at all. So if you snuck it by us before now, you've officially snuck it by.
I snuck in the word scuttle earlier, which I actually not sure in the context that I technically used correctly, but I do like that word.
Wait, what was? Oh, that was a party popper sound?
Isn't that what we decided on?
No, I think we had a horn of some sort. Did that have falling confetti in the
That
background?
was like a real party popper.
That actually sounded that the Foley work on that was pretty good.
It seems like, I mean, from my perspective, it sounds like it must have looked better than it sounded on the radio.
Audio only, so it didn't look like anything. It was just a clip that Rudy had.
It sounds like a Christmas cracker.
Yeah. This was a YouTube video of somebody actually popping a party popper. Yes.
So it was visual for Rudy
Yes.
and whoever made the video. I couldn't see it, though, either.
How brilliant is that, though, that I was able to pick up on that?
No, you nailed it.
Do not remember what it was that
It
we
was
had
some
now.
sort of doo-doo-doo-doo. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Let me ask you this, Matt, and then we'll have the rest of the offseason to dig through some of these more. But what is your favorite of the Chiefs signings from this stretch that is not one we have mentioned already, that's not a receiver?
My favorite signing that we haven't mentioned. Wow.
Should I give you? You know what? Let me ask this: are the Chiefs done at right tackle?
They're the same at right tackle.
They added that guy from the. They added that Christian from the Texans. I don't know that he is a Christian. His last name is Christian.
Given the choice, I'm Wiley or die there with what the Chiefs have on the roster at this point.
Wide or die, baby. I love it. Dan Sorensen, member of the New Orleans Saints. Your thoughts?
Seems like a pretty solid move by the Chiefs.
That's fair. Okay, good. Love it.
Hey, I saw on Twitter that we need to stop it with the Daniel Sorensen slander. He was a playmaker.
Yeah, I stand by what I said.
I will take 8 years of what you got from Dan Sorensen and run to the bank every single day, because that was a freaking bargain for the 8 years that he spent in Kansas City. He was a baller. I just don't want to pay for year 9 or 10.
Ronald Jones, is it true that he might be successful despite the fact the Chiefs didn't have to use a draft pick on him?
No, clearly not. I mean, you have to draft a running back in order for that to work. So no. I mean,
I've not watched a lot of Ronald Jones tape. Is he basically a wide receiver?
He's pretty good catching the football, and he's a big guy. So you got that going for you.
Tyreek Hill replacement.
I will say this, as though I saw all of a sudden I sound like Eric Bieniemy. I will say this. The Chiefs have just gone out and gotten Dave Toub a ton of special teams players.
Wow.
So if Dave Toub is not happy with the way this offseason's gone, I don't know what you're going to do to make Dave Toub happy, because they've gotten him some incredible depth. That if they don't end up, I mean, they'll get him some draft picks too, but right now, I mean, they've added some pieces that should make him pretty happy.
You're right. One of my peak arguments for the retaining of Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen, I don't mean arguments that I wanted this to happen, that I thought this would happen though. That main argument for those guys sticking around is that Dave Toub will absolutely fall on the sword to keep, even to Byron Pringle around, and. You're right. Is a changing of the guard amongst special teams as well. This is truly unprecedented times we're living in. They say.
Elijah Lee, Luke Barku.
Yep.
I mean, all these guys last week, especially. I mean, those signings that they made last week. They just put them all in one tweet. They were kind of underrated, but you know what? They've signed 3 very solid and younger special teams players, and I think that's pretty telling. I mean, because that special teams unit is getting turned over.
Luke Barku and Elijah Lee are going to be on this roster for a dozen years. They are going to end up in the Ring of Honor just from special teams play alone. And honestly, I'm okay with that. All right, man. I think we can let you go. I think that we've got pretty much the the information we needed on the receiver front. We've got your Dr. Jekyll and your Mr. Hyde view, and we'll have plenty of days and weeks and months to figure out, what the return of Austin Ryder means for the Chiefs backup offensive line.
And I will come up with a better vocabulary word than scuttle.
There it is. That's what we used last week. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Take care, everybody.
Big words or no big words, Wordle success or no Wordle success, Matt Derrick deserves the word party horn. He gets it here tonight on Almost Entirely Sports. We'll take a break. I want to talk about some of that stuff on the Tyreek Hill front, some of the other Chiefs stuff. I mean, most likely some nonsense will seep in from somewhere. Maybe we talk a little draft strategy, what they do with a dozen picks. It's a good day to be talking about the Chiefs, but also, more so than any year in recent memory for me, it's interesting talking about the Chiefs because we don't know what's going to be on the other side of this offseason. Sort of unfamiliar territory, but I don't know, makes for good radio. So at least, when other people do it. For us, it makes for radio. But you can have more radio if you come back after the break.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I dream about salary cap stuff at this point. It's really sad.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, for joining us. Go support him and the work that he does on Twitter at Matt Derrick at ChiefsDigest.com. I really think the first 10 or 15 minutes there of him kind of explaining what he sees on the Tyreek Hill trade is as good as I've heard anybody be on it. Really excellent stuff there from Matt. And you could probably tell, like, I remain kind of conflicted, despite this being the type of move that I generally love. I look at where this leaves the Chiefs right now, and part of it for me is going back to the sort of the half-assed question that I half-asked in the first hour. How many more peak years of Travis Kelce do you have?
15.
How many peak years of Andy Reid do you have?
At least 20.
And how are you, if you're comfortable or not, how are you feeling about a year where the two of them spend one of those, low-end 15 to 20 years of prime remaining on a roster that is going to have to piece it together, that also may or may not be piecing it together to be here in this format again next year, just in a further evolution. They are going to draft a receiver top 50. I can't put a taser bet on it because I still haven't paid off the first one, and now Seth is really backing out of wanting to tase me because of the, pancreas and electrical devices permanently stuck in my body.
He genuinely thinks he might kill you. To your credit, I've listened to plenty of times hours. You have not backed away from this bet.
100% ready to do it.
This is 100% been Seth backing away from the bet. So if
And
anybody wants to call you a coward, I mean, that's fine. I'm not going to stop.
Totally.
Them.
In lots of cases, it's true.
Have all the context.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Just call me a coward for something I deserve to be called a coward for. That's not a hard thing for you to find. It's not this one. And eventually, I think I'm going to assuage Seth's fears. And I think he said at one point that if my mom and Renee signed off on it, that he would do it, and both of them would sign off of it. And honestly, like an amount of time that would make me a little bit sad. Like, you guys don't want to even think about it. No. Tase him for sure.
Deep down, they're both mad that Seth hasn't tased you yet.
Yeah, they're mad that they're not the ones that are going to have the honor.
Ah, yeah.
So maybe
Very
they should
true.
just, I don't know. We'll figure that out. But like, I am in not necessarily bet my livelihood on the Chiefs doing anything ever, but I would be genuinely flat out stunned if one of those first 4 picks, which right now is 29, 30, 50, and 62, if they don't draft a receiver in those first 2 rounds, I'd be absolutely floored. Maybe it's not 50, maybe it's 62. I think it might end up being 20. I am worried about what that would cost to move up. I would like to see the Chiefs make 2 picks in the first, second, third, and fourth rounds, though. They also currently have nothing in the 5th or 6th, so their 4 7th-rounders are going to actually be guys that trying to find some value on and keep you from having to fight too hard in the UDFA pool.
Yeah, the one thing I really hope we don't see is, I don't think they necessarily need to make 8 picks in those first 4 rounds, and certainly 12 picks over the course of a draft, because I just think it's unlikely that they're going to have 12 rookies on the roster. Now, this roster is nowhere near full.
Right.
So it's not that it's a case of they don't have space for it. I would just be a little surprised. But if they don't draft at least 6, and ideally 7, I would say, but at least
in
6,
those first 4 rounds.
4 rounds, I start having problems. Right? If that 12 turns into 8, but it was 6 or 7 in the first 4 rounds, and then they spent 2 of those 7s to move to the back of the 6 because there was just a guy they loved.
Sure.
Those 7th-round picks, go nuts with them. If you really
sure.
want. If you want to turn those 4 7s into a late 6 and an early 7th, that's fine. Go nuts.
Try to sell those to somebody for a 6th next year, whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
That's fine. But I really don't want to see. If you want to move up to 40 or 45, I think I can. I'd probably need to look at the chart and see what that looks like. But you could probably talk me into that in terms of giving up one of the 4th-round picks,
yes,
or whatever. That's okay. But I don't love the idea of moving up to 15 to 20 because the real game-breaking receiver, right? I don't know.
There are some dudes here that get in that mid-range.
Yeah.
There's not a top 5 guy, though.
And that's the thing, right? Like the guys worth trading up for, the Jamar Chases of the world.
Yes.
You don't. I mean, one, he's not in this draft, but you also don't get him at 15 generally, right? Now, you never know how these guys pan out, right? AJ Brown was drafted in the 2nd round. He's fantastic.
Well, so this is going to be the thing, though.
That's the point.
Yes. You don't have your Jalen Waddle of this class that you expect to go. Did he go 4 or 5, right?
Jalen, I think, dropped a little bit,
He
right?
dropped 4. Okay, well, hold on. Sorry, everybody. I don't know my draft orders now. 2021 NFL draft. Hold on. Here comes. Welcome to the part of Almost Entirely Sports. We do it once every week or so where we just pull up a draft class. This year is last year's draft.
No, I was wrong. He went 6.
He went 6. Okay.
Which, I mean, technically dropped from what you said, but I was thinking he was like a 9 or 10.
And I would actually I'm going to kind of make Kyle Pitts in this category also as a pass catcher.
He's a receiver.
Pitts goes 4, Jamar Chase goes 5, Waddle goes 6, Devontae Smith goes 10, right? But right there, and frankly, if Devontae Smith was in this year's class, he might go 5. But you have 4 pass catchers there that you could have had an argument for going. I'm sure we're mocked all as high as 4. Once we knew quarterback was happening, 1, 2, 3, you knew it was going to be those 3 guys. We didn't know it was going to be those 3 guys necessarily, but you knew it was going to be 3 quarterbacks. But then the next 3 picks were all pass catchers, and it was all Penei Sewell or Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. That guy isn't in this year's class. But to your point, Rudy, sometimes DK Metcalf is in the second round. Sometimes A.J. Brown is in the second round. Tyler Lockett was the third, right?
Chase
longer
Claypool.
ago. Chase Claypool was...
Michael Pittman.
You will find those guys... And look, I will say the gulf, I like Michael Pittman. I wish he was on this roster. The gulf between Michael Pittman and A.J. Brown is a real one. But the point isn't that there is no difference between who will be receiver 1 and receiver 6 in this draft. The point is that you don't know. It happens all the time. Now, I think there have been more high hits than misses in terms of receivers early in these drafts the last few years. You do still have some of your stinkers, though. N'Keal Harry went, 31. Doesn't mean telling you that every receiver you're going to get at 28 or 30 is going to work out great. But in this particular class, would you rather have, and I'm going to use some names that I don't know are going to be there, but would you rather trade up for Drake London, or, and again, I'm going to frame this kind of funny, stay where you're at and take Jamison Williams and Treylon Burks? Take them both. I'm looking at Tankathon right now. Jamison Williams goes 25 in this one. The question might be, would you rather have Jamison Williams and your edge rusher of choice at 30 or 29, or have Treylon Burks and your edge rusher of choice at 30 and not have your third-round pick in the way if maybe one of those thirds gets you up high enough to take Jamison Williams or Chris Olave or whoever? I would rather have more shots, though.
I think you also touched on something, though. Because the big talk right now is the Chiefs obviously have to draft a receiver high.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Chiefs draft 2 receivers in their first 8 picks. Because you know what? It's not just about having another guy, because the reality is McColl and Juju, as of right now, are gone after 1 year.
Yep.
Marquez
Valdez. You have to say all 3 names.
Valdez Scantling is done after 2.
And it could be 1.
Yes. But
probably 2.
It's likely 2.
It's not a real 3-year deal.
Yeah.
It's a team option 3rd year.
Yes.
If he becomes Deshaun Jackson, it'll be a 3-year deal.
They're just in general, there's going to be a lot of turnover still, just based off the receivers on the current roster in the next 2 years.
Yep.
I would, and especially because the Chiefs have so much firepower in this draft, that you don't have to feel like, oh, we can't take another receiver. We can't take another. And honestly, I think this can apply to both edge rusher and corner. If you told me the Chiefs, let's just say the Chiefs stand pat with 8 picks, if you told me they ended up in those first 8 with 2 receivers, 2 corners, and 2 edge rushers, or just 2 defensive linemen, pass rushers, I wouldn't be mad. But especially with the receiver spot, like, it's just, the Chiefs are in a position to where they can reload, where they can really add to that position. Because one thing, and there's semantics here between, I think, what me and you think with the team next year. Without a doubt, receiver 1 is worse, which I think in general means the receiver room as a whole is worse. You can make the argument 2 through 5 is better, yada, yada, yada.
I think 2 through 5 will be better.
Yeah, they just clearly
it just
don't
matters
have
less.
The top guy.
Right.
I don't think that necessarily means the offense will be worse, the team will be worse, just simply because if you have Patrick Mahomes, anything is possible. But I also think it's likely worse, right? I can't say with 100% certainty just because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
With him, you can tell me anything and I'll pretty much believe it just because of the talent that he is.
This will at least force him to do it in a different way.
Yes, 100%. But if all of a sudden you are looking at a receiver room that has McCole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez
MVS.
Saying his name fast just gets me. There's a lot of names there.
Just moves.
And then it's Treylon Burks or Johan Dotson or whichever receiver you like.
I like Jamison Williams. I don't think he's going to be there.
And then Wandale Robinson and honestly, he's the guy who I just remember the third round. There are other third round guys. You start seeing a receiving room that has. There's excitement there, right? There's potential. And also, it doesn't put you in a situation to where you feel like you have to re-sign McCole or you have to re-sign Juju. I hope one of those two give the Chiefs a reason to re-sign them.
Yes.
Because I want them to play well. I want to see McCole. We talked about this, right? McCole's best four-game stretch as a Chief was when Tyreek Hill was out. McCole's not Tyreek. I don't know if he can do those 4 games over 17.
Could he do one big piece of the Tyreek Hill puzzle?
But now all of a sudden you are looking at a receiving room, not just for this upcoming year, but even long term that has intrigue, right? That has a bit of like, okay, this could actually be while they don't clearly have the Tyreek Hill type.
Yes,
they could have a much deeper room with much more options with a bunch of really good guys. And who knows, right? Maybe one of those guys develops into a legit number one. Now, Treylon Burks could become a legit number one in the NFL and still be nowhere near Tyreek Hill because he's just that good, right? Like Tyreek Hill is just a generational type of player.
But if one of
those guys becomes a legit number one, and then you have 4 number 2s, and that's obviously that's not realistic, right? Some of these guys are just not going to be that good with the Chiefs or whatever.
But your point is taken. Yes,
if guys develop, all of a sudden, so I think they should throw, and this kind of goes to your thing of throwing numbers at it. I wouldn't settle with just drafting a wide receiver and hoping that guy becomes the guy. I would draft 2 wide receivers. 3 is probably, you do have other needs to fill.
Got a lot of picks, though.
I'm going to be mad if they drafted 3. But I'm not going to be, like, super greedy with 3. But I think they should legitimately draft 2. Like, I think that's one position, especially with the way the draft is looking like right now, where I think they should target 2 guys, and go get them. And by go get them, I mean just draft them when they fall.
When they get there, right?
Again,
right.
If one time you want to move up from 50 to 40, and you throw in a 4th or that last third, I don't want it, but I can live with it. Do not trade up to 15. They package both first-round picks to move up and lose my bleeping mind.
Somebody made this point. Shockingly, I'm remembering a tweet from a week ago and not remembering who said it. But
doesn't sound like you.
Any move that you make like that, if you package 29 and 30 to try to go get 15 or whatever it might be, directly lessens the return you got for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Think of it that way. And
it kind of defeats the purpose.
I want to believe, man. I want to believe so bad that the Chiefs understand all of this and that we are preaching to a choir on this one. I don't begrudge them for the Orlando Brown trade. I understand why they did it. I understand why they did the Frank Clark trade. I think it's an albatross. They made the mistake on Frank Clark. They made the mistake on trading up for Breeland Speaks. Like, it's just in the draft, you will fall in love with the guys you're scouting, and I understand that. And if you told me right now, hey, at 25, Jamison Williams and Treylon Burks are both sitting there still, and the Bills are willing to trade back, would you give up a 4th to move up from 29 to 25 for Jamison Williams? I, as a person who is deeply, disagreeing with myself all show tonight, I would want to go get that pick. But the smarter thing to do in the grander picture of it all would be to wait for whichever receiver falls to you at 29 and then take them. Then try again at 62 and fill out that room. I told you I was looking at Tankathon. They have a really simple layout, and so their site's generally good to look at. They have Treylon Burks going at 29, which makes me happy. Nakobe Dean out of Georgia goes 30th.
If the Chiefs spend a first-round pick on a linebacker, I mean, Nakobe Dean's a good player, but it just explain it to me.
Hold on. Rudy thinks he might have found the punchline of this one. You know how comedy comes in threes, Rudy?
Yeah.
At 50, they take Darian Kennard, offensive tackle.
Bleep yes.
Kentucky. I do not want them to use their third pick on a right tackle.
I don't either. Who some have said might be better off as a guard. I think Darian Kennard's going to be a good NFL player, but like there are like some people legitimately think he is actually a right guard, not a right tackle. Point regardless. Chiefs. I love Darian Kennard. Chiefs don't need him.
Hey, Rudy.
He took workout videos of him shirtless, cutting wood in the middle, logging basically.
Wish him well.
It's great.
Wish him well somewhere else.
He's got great hair.
Outside the AFC West, ideally. Hey, Rudy.
What's up?
Remember the thing I said about how comedy comes in threes?
Oh, boy.
62nd overall pick.
Tyler Beatty.
Tankathon.com. Kansas City Chiefs select.
Wandale?
Isaiah Spiller. Running back. Texas A&M.
I hate this mock draft. Wait, are you sure that's comedy and not a horror? Like, is that a horror movie?
I could definitely get hype for Treylon Burks, right? Okay,
Yeah,
that right there, that's a good start. Oh, I'm feeling good.
Like Treylon.
If the Chiefs spend 3 of their first 4 picks on a linebacker, a right tackle, and a running back, you save the audio because I will commit a crime. I don't know which crime it will be, but if the Chiefs spend 3 of their first 4 picks on a linebacker, a tackle, and a running back in any order, unless they like trade Orlando Brown, I guess, and then it's left. If it is for a linebacker, a right tackle, and a running back, I will commit a crime. It will be a victimless crime. I will be the only victim of said crime. Maybe it will be something petty.
The Chiefs make that draft where all the victims.
Maybe I will. That's a great point, Rudy. That's a great point. Maybe what it will be is that I will not resort to criminal activity, but I will call out the Chiefs on having made all of us victims to this. But I just scrolled down the Tankathon mock. It was washed over by the feelings of what the day after the draft would look like. And I would need some extra insulin, and I might need a new pancreas and the new liver if all of that were to happen.
What's the third round look like?
Let's see. I don't know. Oh, they did continue on. Okay, let's find out. I genuinely don't know.
Does it make you feel better? I mean, I don't think it can, but.
So they pick again at 94. Myjai Sanders, edge, Cincinnati.
Okay.
Is the compensatory pick not on here?
Wait until the third round of drafting edge. Seems like a questionable decision, but so
That
they're drafting a running back in the second round.
Compensatory pick's not on there. So there you go. You have your edge. And then that's where the mock ends.
I don't like that mock.
Me neither. And again, man, I know it's bonkers, but like I kind of like the large scale thing that they did in the Tyreek Hill trade. I just don't like that this team isn't going to have Tyreek Hill on it next year. I don't know how to put it any more concisely than that.
He was fun to watch.
Yeah, good at football, some were saying. Now he's going to do it with Tua, I guess.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Kansas City's nicest upscale golf course, the Golf Club at Creekmore, is offering a preview 3-month trial membership. Come see why Golf Digest ranks it as one of the best courses you can play in the state in 2020. And Creekmore has a great new twilight rate for golf after 5 p.m. It's only $25 per...
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Bill Self has had his eye on Steve Mikhailuk since he was 7, which when you say it that way doesn't sound great.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We've yet to talk about the Final Four here on tonight's Almost Entirely Sports. It was a great weekend of basketball.
I don't think basketball is being played right now, Josh.
Yeah, I forgot about your whole deal. Hey, look, you can rest easy knowing that the Peacocks had an unbelievable run after vanquishing your Wildcats.
I don't think games have been played.
I DVR'd it. I have it on a VHS that I'll hand you, Rudy. I'll let you go back and rewatch it.
You want to hear a fun fact that I may have definitely have said on the show?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Derek, just bleep off for a second, okay?
You know when the last time Kentucky won an NCAA tournament game?
No.
2019. Because there was no tournament in 20. They didn't make the tournament in 21. One and done this year.
That is brutal. Okay. I hope that fun fact was worth the wait there. Derek Johnson of KLWN, who joins us now, of course, up there in Lawrence, hosting Rock Chalk Sports Talk on 1320 in Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at DJohnsonRadio. Did you learn something from sad Kentucky Rudy just then, or did you know that already?
It's one of those things where, when you hear it, you go, yeah, that makes sense. But when you hear it out loud, you're like, wow.
It's a dark place for Rudy. Every time we talk about basketball, I think in a different life, he would be the one making sure we were talking about the Final Four. We've got 4 teams that wear blue, 4 blue blood programs in the Final Four, and your team got bounced by the Peacocks.
St. Peter's has as many tournament wins this year since 2018. Kentucky won 3 games in 2018. St. Peter's won 3 this year.
Football school.
Have you heard the Lebo told me this one? St. Peter's won 3 games in 11 days. Texas has won 3 NCAA tournament games in 11 years.
Also awesome. Also good. Okay, I'm here for all St. Peter's-based fun facts and stats and all of that. That makes me very happy. Also, I would have loved for St. Peter's to be the ones advancing out of that game. I would have definitely been here for St. Peter's versus the Blue Devils on the Coach K retirement tour and everything. It would have been perfect. But ultimately, we'll get to KU in a second, Derek. But maybe this makes me kind of a basketball simpleton. But Duke, Carolina, KU, Villanova feels just about as good as a Final Four can feel to me.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of funny because it's a little reminiscent of another time that KU made the Final Four in 2008 when it was all 1 seeds. And obviously there isn't another 1 seed in this year's Final Four. But like you said, it's very blue-bloody. Ticket prices just continue to surge for the games. Travel prices surging up. It's in what is, I think, pretty widely renowned as the best spot to host a Final Four, which is New Orleans. It's pretty cool. And, yeah, I mean, part of me wanted St. Peter's to win that game because the Cinderella story is awesome, and how great would it be if Coach K's career ended from St. Peter's.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like that was unlikely. So in the same way that Gonzaga lost to Arkansas, and then it was like, wow, this is cool, team pulled an upset, but now, oh no, the path is opening up for Duke. Yeah. I guess that's the positive of North Carolina making it through.
And, I mean, again, those individual matchups, all of the drama getting to this point, it's been a lot of fun. But you want to talk about paths opening up. KU seems like they just ended up getting that path that we all sat here on Selection Sunday and looked at and said, well, if this shakes out a certain type of way, it's a pretty good path for KU if they're going to be able to capitalize on it. And now here we are talking about them going back to the Final Four.
Yeah, I said it a couple times with Auburn being their 2 seed. If Auburn would have matched up with Kansas, it's not a matchup I would have loved. I mean, that would have been really tough for Kansas, but it was the idea that, yeah, but is Auburn going to even make it to the Elite Eight? And bracket ended up opening up. I thought that it was as good of an opportunity as it possibly could have been. Even the 4 seed you were playing in Providence, you look at some advanced metrics, they're not ranking as high. Now, clearly they were still a really good team. They win the Big East regular season, but not as good if you compare it to, Houston, who got a 5 seed. I think Kansas got a favorable draw by having to play Providence in that situation. Then Miami making it through to the Elite Eight. They did give Kansas a scare, but the second half just completely dominant, and boom, you're in the 4th Final Four since Bill Self has taken over, which moves him into a tie for most by any Kansas coach.
There are certainly a couple of potential answers to this, and I'll make you go down the medal stand for second and third place as well. But for you looking at Kansas, what's the story of their run?
I mean, it's hard not to just highlight Remy Martin.
Sure
is.
He
literally was, he was Midwest Regional MOP. So literally they said he was the most outstanding player on the team that won that region. And then when you just add in the whole story of, I mean, he had 67 points in the Midwest Regional over 4 games. 67. From January 29th, that Kansas-Kentucky game, through the end of the regular season on, I think, was March 5th, he played 48 total minutes.
Wow.
So it's just absolutely mind-blowing that this would happen. And, I know Kansas fans will throw it back to 2018 when Malik Newman did something sort of similar. He was a part-time starter, got benched a few times throughout the season. I think he was averaging 11, 12 points per game headed in to the Big 12 tournament, and he just started shooting flamethrowers out of his hands. He's ended up shooting over 50% from 3 from then on, from the Big 12 tournament through the NCAA tournament, leading in to the Final Four for Kansas. And that was a crazy story, and that was kind of the comparison there. But, that was still a guy who was starting and scoring 12 points per game who then just caught fire. This is a guy who wasn't even part of the rotation, really. He played, I think, 7 minutes on senior day, and now he is doing this. Now he is looking like the guy who was named preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. It is just a fascinating ride that we're on, and I think this is also kind of a conversation for the entire Final Four, except for Villanova. But we always talk about, guard play winning in March, and specifically – that's kind of referring to, the lead guards.
Mm-hmm.
And for Villanova, they had Colin Gillespie, who is considered one of the best point guards in the country. So that's not a surprise. But all the 3 other teams that are in the Final Four this year, in a year where maybe the lead guard play has been down, or if you were to ask someone, name the 5 best lead guards in the country, name the 10 best, it's not going to be as good of a list as some other years, but all of those other 3 teams in the Final Four, including Kansas with Remy Martin, have seen emergences from guys late, like R.J. Davis taking over the guard role for North Carolina after it was mostly Caleb Love for a while. Jeremy Roach just all of a sudden coming on for Duke, and that's been the case with Kansas. Remy Martin has given them that, and now they have one of the better lead guard plays in the country, and he has just been phenomenal.
I won't make you pick one in this category because I know that the answer is multifaceted. But what has he brought that this team didn't have whenever he wasn't playing, mid-conference play?
Well, I mean, the thing that immediately strikes the mind is going back to the end of last season. At the end of the year, Bill Self mentioned, needing to get more athletic, and he's kind of drawn back those comments a little bit this year. There was a comment about a week ago kind of doing so, and that he just said, well, it turns out we have a little bit more of an athletic team than I thought, and guys just getting older, another year of maturity has helped because they do have 4 of the 5 starters back. But still, at the end of the day, especially in NCAA tournament games, the Providence game is a great example of this. There's going to be times when the other team has you scouted perfectly, or the other team is playing great defense, and you're just going to need a player to straight up make a big play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were times where Providence was shouting out the play when KU was calling it because they're 2 kind of similar teams. And so it just comes down to players being able to kind of make buckets in that situation, and that's what Remy Martin provides. He can take a guy off the dribble. He can go with the shot clock winding down. He can shake a guy. He can do that little kind of stop at the mid-post area, turn around, and shoot the fading jumper. Those things have not always been there for Kansas over the last couple of years, whereas, as great as Ochai Agbaji is, he's not somebody who's just going to shake you off the dribble and hit some crazy step-back 3. That's the case with Christian Brown and DeJuan Harris and all these guys. He's kind of their best creator of isolation offense to a certain point, and he just adds more speed. He adds more quickness. He adds more to the transition game. It just kind of raises the ceiling of what this team can be, but it also raises their floor. And, I kind of think for a while we got stuck in this situation of, well, does KU need Remy to make a Final Four run. And for a while in January, it felt like that was the case, especially with the Kentucky blowout loss. And then they blew out Baylor, and they hit kind of a nice little run there where it was like maybe they don't need him to make the Final Four. But that is what has been so crazy. They do not make the Elite Eight without Remy Martin. I mean, they probably lose in the second round to Creighton without him. Same goes for the Sweet 16 game. They probably lose there to Providence without him. And then the Elite Eight, they ended up winning by 26, so that's a different story. But it is just incredible because he literally has changed their season from being a possible first weekend exit to now playing in New Orleans.
Well, and you mentioned Ochai Agbaji, and he would have been one of those guys that you would have at least had, I would think, sort of setting your floor, right? You hope for the conference player of the year and somebody genuinely excellent. I'm not. This is not a accidentally backhanded trash Ochai Agbaji show, but you have seen these stretches. He ended up scoring plenty against Miami, and I think a lot of that was in the second half. But we've seen kind of a slow, cold Ochai Agbaji, at least as a scorer, kind of going back to a large chunk of the Big 12 tournament as well. I know he can affect the game in different ways. I know that final stat line is not the be-all, end-all, but there are these times when he just doesn't seem to be like he wants to be the guy with the ball in his hand, or that he wants to take a shot in a given circumstance. He's not scared of the moment or anything, but I don't think he certainly has any hesitation in terms of giving the ball up and trying to let someone else create. So what have you seen from Ochai in this stretch, and does he need to be something different or something better or something evolved at all in this next game, or, for KU's hopes too?
Yeah, I think there isn't really a world in my eyes that Kansas can win the title without Ochai being an efficient, high-level scorer in these next two games. If you get what you saw against Miami, that should be more than good enough. He kind of quietly had 18 points on 8 of 12 shooting in that game. It didn't really feel like that. He had 12 of them in the second half. He hit 2 threes. He only has 4 threes in the tournament, so he only had 2 before then. This has kind of been a big talking point for us as well. It's trying to kind of decipher this, right? Because when you're somebody who shoots the ball as much as he does, it's not that crazy for you to have a 2 or 3 game stretch where the shooting numbers are down and you just say, well, it's a sample size thing, it'll bounce back. Obviously, that gets tougher in the NCAA tournament when it's a 1-game sample. But nonetheless, when you look back to the last week of the regular season, Ochai really struggled shooting the basketball. And then you go to the senior day game, and he just could not buy a field goal in that game against Texas. And then you carry it over to the NCAA tournament, and that was the case again, really through all the games till the Miami game. The one kind of sliver in between there was the Big 12 tournament. He was 20 of 42 shooting in those 3 games in the Big 12 tournament, so basically 50% from the field. So clearly he was hitting his shots in the Big 12 tournament, although a lot of those might have been in transition and whatnot. The three-point percentage still was kind of in the mid-30s at that point in time in the Big 12 tournament. But it kind of begged the question of, is he just playing tight? Because it's not a situation of, is the moment too big or this or that. I think that Ochai just cares so much about Kansas. He cares so much about trying to help his teammates win and trying to get this for the coaching staff and trying to bring this back for the players. It's a positive thing that he cares that much. It really is. But it does make you wonder if in some of those big moments, such as senior day, it can cause you to be a little too tight and you start focusing too much, like, I have to hit this shot for everyone, right? And that's just kind of a tough place to be at. So maybe the Elite Eight game for Ochai Agbaji was kind of the freeing of the mind. And, you see some stories in the Kansas City Star or the Athletic about what was said at halftime with Bill Self, and it wasn't really a yelling at or a what's going on here. It was just kind of a calm, hey, this is what we need to do. We didn't do it in the first half. And you wonder if that kind of unlocked him, that you do take the cues from the head coach. But we're not really going to know if it did or not until the actual game tips off. But, yeah, that's something I'm definitely curious about, if it is just a tightness thing. And certainly playing in a big football arena in the Caesars Sports Dome or whatever it's called now that it's not the Mercedes-Benz, is going to be interesting because it's always harder to shoot in those environments.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Halftime speech notwithstanding, whatever we do know or don't know or think we might know, how do you explain first half against Miami, second half against Miami?
I think the first half a little bit, they got caught up in, Miami plays a stretch five, and they play all these quick guards who can go get buckets. We need to try to morph into fitting what they're doing and try to match that instead of, hey, we're going to play our identity, which there are times where Kansas, with their identity, does give up too much to a stretch five. We saw it in the Oklahoma games this year, especially the game in Allen Fieldhouse where Tanner Groves kind of went off and KU couldn't defend the stretch five. Eventually they bring in Zach Clements late. But in this game, it was really the start of the second half that you could see. KU was just like, you know what, forget this. Let's have the guys who brought us here play this game, and let's play to our advantages. Let's stop worrying about how we're going to defend them, and how about we make them worry about how they're going to defend us? And that pretty much involves, okay, you might have the stretch five, although KU did kind of do an inverse where they had Jalen Wilson on their five and Dave on their four, and they basically said, well, what if we throw the ball in the post? Because that's your weakness on defense, even though we might have weakness getting out on you. And Dave started out huge in the second half. I think 7 big points. The big and one was, it felt to me like the biggest turning point of the game in the second half for KU. And then besides that, I mean, it's hard not to go back and watch that first half versus the second half and see the difference in, I guess, a willingness or aggressiveness to shoot the three, and I think that maybe has more of a metaphorical sense of just being more aggressive for the game, because KU didn't make any threes in the first half, but if you're only shooting 5 of them, the sample size is so small there that it's so easy to go 0 for 5. Put up 10 of them, and KU in the second half, I think this has been kind of a knock against Christian Brown this year. As great of a player as he is, he's such a good shooter that his coaches, his teammates will tell him, like, shoot the ball more. You're open. Yeah. You're a good shooter. That is a good shot for us. And he just wants to be a good teammate and wants to try to find the best shot possible, but sometimes that is the best shot. And there were a couple times he didn't pull it in the first half. The second half, he hits that big three that gives KU their first lead for a while. KU ends up hitting 5 threes in the second half. And then the defense was just remarkable in the second half. I don't think it was terrible in the first half or anything, but there were a few things that Miami was able to get offensively in the first half. Second half, you only give up 17 points in the second half. My co-host, Adam Dravetta, pointed out earlier today that KU actually outscored Miami in the second half more than they outscored Texas Southern in the first half of the first game.
Wow, that's a Dravetta nugget right there. Love a good order of Dravetta nuggets with a side of sports radio. That's beautiful. You mentioned the David McCormick sort of like turning point moment. I wanted to get your feeling on him because we've talked about him. You and I've talked about him on this show at least once before. I've talked about him with our variety of shared KU guests, and the way that KU fans even sort of have absorbed David McCormick over his career and what this year was, and maybe more importantly wasn't, in terms of some giant step that you'd love to see from a big man late in his collegiate career. But to get that moment there, and then to have a little bit of a reminder of what he can do in a spot like that, I like to see it because I'm a sucker for a guy who's maybe gotten a little bit overly bleeped on to have a big moment in a big game. But what is the practical real impact of David McCormick in the version that we have seen now? Do you have any reason to believe that we're going to see a consistently good version of him, though, for the next game or two?
I do not have a ton of confidence there, just because there has been so many inconsistencies. And I don't think it's all his fault. He's been dealing with a lot of pain in his foot. There's been, it's kind of off and on game to game, whether you see him limping up and down the court, and he's battling through it. So I don't think it's all his fault. But if they do get good Dave, it's about as important as any players they could ask for. The biggest thing for KU, and this kind of goes back in line with, what's different about the first half and the second half. When KU's getting stops and they're getting rebounds, that enables them to do what they do best, which is getting out in transition, running off rebounds, and just pitching the ball up ahead. And Dave is, in theory, the team's best defensive rebounder. I mean, If you want to say Jalen Wilson, that's fine too. But he's right up there. He's their best interior defender in terms of, helping with the defense. So he has a big impact. The thing that is going to be interesting this week, I think, for Dave, I look at the Villanova game right off the bat. I don't know how Villanova is going to play for the most part with the Justin Moore injury, their starting shooting guard. They pretty much were playing like a six-man rotation, and then they'd maybe sprinkle in another guy or two along the way. The sixth man, the guy basically, playing the bench minutes, was Eric Dixon, who's their 6'8", 260-pound center. Doesn't shoot a ton of threes. He shot 30 this year, so about one a game. He's more of a traditional center, though. And if having Justin Moore out means they're just going to slide everyone up the lineup, then that might be beneficial to Dave. But if they play their normal kind of lineup that features Jermaine Samuels at the 5, I don't know how good that's going to be for Dave, because Jermaine Samuels is kind of like a 6'8", slashing forward. He doesn't shoot threes super efficiently, but he does take 3 a game. He's athletic. He's a good player. He can make stuff happen in the post. It's kind of similar to Baylor's Jeremy Sohan, who was playing a small ball 5 in the game in Waco due to an injury to Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua. And that gave Kansas a lot of fits defensively, having that athletic 5 who could kind of run up and down with him. So if that's the matchup, I don't know how good that is going to be for Dave. That could be kind of problematic. But I think that it's been pretty clear in the NCAA tournament, and even if you go back to the Big 12 tournament too, he has made some of the biggest plays for this team across the way. Like I mentioned, the turning point and one against Miami, the big start to the second half. The Creighton game, he came up with that huge block toward the end of the game that basically allowed them to seal it. He has been as pivotal to this run as, any player, Remy Martin, and it's pretty crazy that where we were a month ago or 2 months ago or wherever, if you were to say that, two of the biggest MVPs for KU in the NCAA tournament were Remy Martin and David McCormick, and Ochai Agbaji did not get on the All-Midwest tournament team. I don't know if I would have believed it.
Yeah, no, that's a good pull. Well, and so there's a couple of names. I feel like you gave us the Christian Brown sort of inside track there, but there are two names that we've barely mentioned in terms of literally the starting 5, because Remy Martin is the honorary starter there, not by minutes even, just in my heart. But Jalen Wilson is the guy for me in that group, with Dwan Harris obviously also is getting a ton of minutes, and absolutely he has the highest minutes to conversation ratio, where he's out there but no one's ever talking about it, and Remy Martin is the inverse. He has the inverse ratio of that. But I feel like, and maybe this is just my own biases or whatever, but I feel like Jalen Wilson is the guy on this team who has not gotten the right ratio of conversation to what he does for this team, because everybody else, I think you see their roles maybe more, or maybe it's just that their moments have come in bigger moments. I'm really not sure what it is, but I'm looking for somebody to pick up the campaign advisor role for Jalen Wilson, for him getting a little more shine on this team.
Yeah, he is just an absolute grinder, and I'm sure Bill Self loves that. He's had some lapses of defense throughout the season, but really over the last month, it feels like his defense has gotten a lot better, and teams have been at certain times kind of targeting him in switches and stuff, but he's, again, in a lot of times very much held his own. Back to the part about KU being at their best when they get defensive rebounds, and that allows them to be able to get out and run. In wins this season, Jalen Wilson is averaging, it's like 6 and almost 6.5 rebounds per game. In losses, it's at like 4, and it also in the losses he's playing 4 more minutes per game. So if you kind of like prorate it out to kind of equalize on the minutes, it's about a 2.5, 3 rebound difference for what Jalen is averaging in the wins versus the losses, which again goes in line with KU being at their best. And you could argue it's him or Dave as being the best defense rebounders on the team. So when he's engaged, when he is playing that defense, when he is getting those rebounds, as he was all week, he ends up with the huge game against Providence. And he hasn't shot it well either. The 3-point shooting has been kind of well, I mean, for lack of a better term, no pun intended, hit or miss all season.
Right.
He's shooting, in the mid-low 20s so far this year. If that comes around, because we have seen a few games where maybe he just catches fire, that would be a huge boon for KU. But it's not just that. He goes 1 of 8 in the game against Miami, and the one he hit was absolutely remarkable. But he just, like I said, he just grinds his way. He gets his way to certain points, and Kansas needs that sometimes. He can handle the ball a little bit. He's been really impressive for me because he kind of very much fits the notion of Bill Self will always talk about, like, you don't need to hit shots to play well, and I think he has very much done that because he's not hitting shots right now. He hasn't really been in the NCAA tournament, but he's still playing well, and he still is being one of your best rebounders and, like I said, kind of taking the challenge on the defensive end.
Last thing for you, Derek. I'm tempted to do kind of a big Bill Self sort of like legacy chat, but we'll have time after the tournament wraps up, and we'll see. We'll have a fuller picture by then. So tell me about this Final Four. I thought your nuggets there on Villanova and how the injury changes what they might do and everything, and revolving around McCormick, fascinating. And you can either go deeper on Villanova or leave it there if you'd like. But when you look at North Carolina and Duke on the other side, I'm curious if you think one of those teams projects as a better matchup or a worse matchup for Kansas. But also, how are you feeling about where KU lands in this group, in this Final Four? Like, we are fully now down to the time where everybody is going to have their favorite, their underdog, their blue blood of choice. This is when all eyes, I think, are maybe even the most on college basketball. Maybe that first weekend's even higher. I don't know. I love that first weekend. But this is like the good bleep right here. I want to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so the Villanova matchup, beyond what happens at the 5-man spot, like that's one of the two biggest things I'm interested in for KU and the matchup itself. The other thing is that Villanova really does a good job and likes to have their guards back down in the post. And that isn't really ideal for Remy Martin and Harris are very small. So having Colin Gillespie or whoever back you down in the post isn't great. But again, Justin Moore's out, and he's one of their other guards who does that and backs down in the post. So it's kind of really hard to get a full picture on Villanova. But obviously they're a good team. They're a Jay Wright coach team, and they've given Kansas some fits in the NCAA tournament of late. I think Jay Wright has beaten Bill Self 3 of the last 4 times. I did see a fun little stat that's been surfacing around, though, that the last 3 winners of this game in the tournament, which is the amount of times that Jay Wright and Bill Self has met, have all won the national title. 2008, Kansas wins in the Sweet 16. 2016, Villanova wins in the Elite 8. And then 2018 was the nightmarish one for Kansas fans with the amount of threes Villanova hits. But Villanova plays at kind of a slower pace, slower tempo. They're an efficient offense, even though they don't average a ton of points per game necessarily because they do play slower. So I would imagine this is a game that's probably going to be kind of close. The key for Kansas, you can't get down late. Villanova is literally the best free throw shooting in college basketball history right now. So don't get down late. They're not a team who panics or turns it over. You got to be playing out in front of that game. And then on the other side, it's hard for me not to think that in the final year of Coach K that something weird isn't happening and that could be going through. I mean, the whole time, though, Duke has had probably the most NBA talent of any team, and they finally figured out the point guard position. They're just making everything on offense. They're up to number 1 in adjusted offensive efficiency on KenPom, and I kind of have a hard time seeing North Carolina beating them, especially after what happened on Coach K's last home game. That I could see things kind of getting ugly there. And what has to be a little bit scary, kind of banking back into the narrative talk, if Kansas does get by Villanova and plays Duke in the title game, do you know who Coach K's first national title was against?
Would you like to tell us?
It was against Kansas, and he would have the opportunity to start and end his national title careers against Kansas.
I don't think sports are fixed, right? I don't think any of the script writers are actually in charge of any of this. But that would feel about this Final Four. Coach K versus KU, bookending it the same way. Yeah, I mean, it's a storybook that I'm not all that excited to read, but I can acknowledge that it's got some storybook vibes. Derek, I appreciate your time with us here tonight. Again, KLWN, Rock Chalk Sports Talk on KLWN in Lawrence, 1320 AM. You can follow him on Twitter at DJohnsonRadio as well. Anything else people need to know, or do you want to go to bed? I don't know why I was going to make you go to bed at 9:30. That's up to you.
No, you're all good. My wife's just enjoying some Bridgerton. Who knows? Maybe I'll go join her.
It's past your bedtime. I've told you it's bedtime. You go to bed. We'll talk to you again later.
Can I go to bed?
No, Rudy. Rudy, you've got 25 more minutes or so. That's Derek Johnson. Again, follow him on Twitter at DJohnsonRadio, Rock Chalk Sports Talk from 3 to 6 on KLWN there in Lawrence. Maybe we'll get a little Bridgerton report from him next time. Maybe we'll be talking about KU winning the whole thing. Maybe it'll be Coach K winning the whole thing. Again, Mike from Duke, as we call him. And, taking a ring straight to the door club. A legacy unlike any other.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
This is Matt Coker from West Coast Men's Health. Has Viagra stopped working for you? Do you hate the side effects? If you've taken Viagra for any length of time, you already know that pills are not the solution to ED. Here at West Coast Men's Health, we have a better approach to ED. Acoustic wave therapy creates blood flow circulation by safely removing the plaque in your arteries and restoring function naturally. No pills, no shots, no surgery. We can also treat Peyronie's disease. Our non-invasive treatment for ED is painless and highly effective. We have treated thousands of men just like you. Stop living with this problem and do something about it. Do yourself a favor, do your partner a favor, and call us today.
Call 913-243-3200. That's 913-243-3200. 913-243-3200. Online at westcoastmenshealth.com. HSA cards welcome and financing available.
Looking for a great local getaway? The Elms Hotel and Spa is an iconic destination hotel and the perfect spot to spoil that special someone. The Elms Hotel and Spa will complete a multi-million-dollar expansive renovation by spring 2022 and debut as the place to see and be seen. This gem has luxury guest rooms and suites, expansive spa services, and newly cultivated dining experiences. 816-630-5500 or online at theelmshotelandspa.com. Located in Excelsior Springs at 401 Regent Street. The Elms Hotel and Spa, a destination hotel.
Patients like Heather haven't felt this good in years, thanks to natural biologic treatments from QC Kinetics.
I have really bad arthritis in my right hand and my shoulder. Both would wake me up at night because they would hurt so much. Since I've been going to QC Kinetics and had the treatments, I'm already seeing such a difference. My pain level is just almost gone.
If you have chronic joint pain and are tired of using steroids and drugs and really want to avoid surgery, call QC Kinetics to learn more about how natural biologic treatments are giving patients lasting relief.
Oh my gosh, why did I wait? This is so great. Especially the way things have been going these days. Things that you took for granted, we haven't had the option to do. And now I want to do them. I want to go out. I want to go for walks. I want to go hang out with my kids. And I don't want to be hurting.
Don't wait. Call now to learn more about regenerative restorative treatments that help your body heal itself. Call QC Kinetics.
816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. QC Kinetics. 816-412-6299.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Time flies when you're talking about your dad's furry empire that you ruined and then the long drives back from St. Louis you never fully forgive your friends for.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Speaking of long drives back from St. Louis, I will give a Glass Animals concert update at some point. We have to do a little bracketology update right now because I'm about to break some news. I learned something that I did not know in our bracket updates right now. But I'll provide an AES bracket update and then the 810 bracket update. Here's some stuff you should know. Beards McFly, 40th, tied for 40th in the AES bracket challenge. KU is his champion, though. He has a lot of points remaining on the board potentially. Right now, though, he's in 40th. Rudy, currently tied for 25th. No points remaining. 540 final score for Rudy.
Didn't Didn't have any of the national championship possibilities, right?
No Final Fours.
Gonzaga and Arizona really hurt me. I had KU, but
yeah, them losing. You're right.
But I had them losing, and then I had Texas Tech, I believe, was my other Final Four team.
Me too. Yeah, you and I had very similar brackets. I am currently tied for 22nd. I have 10 more points than you in the ESPN one, which means I got one first-round game right more than you did. So I am victorious over you in head-to-head. Neither one of us should brag about this.
Not a good year for me. Last year was great. Fantastic. You could make an argument just based off my result last year. I could really rode the, hey, I'm an expert. Look at me. Whew. This sure is bad.
Richard Justice, the dog, currently in 75th in the bracket challenge. The 1.2 percentile of all ESPN brackets. Tough year for Dick Justice. Really tough.
Rough year for dogs.
Did not get any Sweet 16 points, much less Elite 8 Final Four national championship game. That's a toughie.
The dogs let him down.
Dogs let him down. Gonzaga going on a run could have helped him, me, and Rudy.
Good year for Birds.
Great year for Birds. Dr. Professor, 72nd. Slightly better than Dick Justice. No points remaining. 7.7 percentile. Chloe Brisco Bracketology.
Can she win this whole thing?
With a national champion of Kansas.
Hold on. What was her Final Four? Give me the Final Four matchups.
I was actually about to, but I need to click through because I can't remember what the two... Hold on. Chloe Brisco Bracketology, just a few quick highlights, okay?
I remember she had the U going pretty deep.
Couple quick highlights.
Maybe to the Elite 8?
UConn and Texas Tech, Elite 8 teams in top left corner, nothing out of there. Texas Tech was her Final Four team. Out of the East, she had Texas in her Final Four. Obviously didn't make it. She did have St. Peter's all the way up until they were going to presumably lose to Texas, which actually is when they beat Purdue. So she left some St. Peter's points on the bone there. Had Texas winning the region, obviously no good. Texas Tech and Texas on the left side, no shot. She had the U versus Kansas in the Elite 8, with Kansas winning. She had Villanova in her Final Four, a KU-Villanova Final Four matchup correctly predicted. If KU wins against Villanova and then wins the whole thing, there are points remaining here for Chloe, who is in 10th in the AES Bracket Challenge. Good for the 88th percentile on ESPN.com.
That's why she's our expert.
I now go over to the 810WHB.com Bracket Challenge. Among the 810 VIPs, a few point totals here. I don't know why mine looks so much better in the 810 Bracket Challenge, because Rudy, yours is bad. I don't know, maybe the scoring is different. I think I did identical brackets.
Are you talking about the 810, like the
810.com, 810WHB.com Bracket Challenge. 810 VIPs and all that.
The one that we did.
No. Bracket Challenge online. No.
System.
Bracket Challenge online. You're in bad shape. Just, I'm going to give you some point totals. Some point totals here, okay? Nate Bucati, 50 points. Joshua Brisco, 50 points. Jed Marshall, 51 points. Surin Petro, 52 points. Stephen St. John, 52 points.
Nice.
Chloe Brisco, 53 points. That is first place among 810 VIPs in the 810 Bracket Challenge, and she has Kansas winning the whole thing. If we froze here without the Final Four games being played, Chloe would be the winner among 810 VIPs in the Bracket Challenge. I'll say it, folks. My 12-year-old sister knows more about college basketball than Surin Petro and Stephen St. John. It's on the website. You can check for yourself.
She want a job?
Mine.
I think legally she gets a job here.
Almost Entirely Sports with Chloe Brisco would be a better show. I mean, we all know this.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, it would also be a more educated one.
You can be the co-host. I think that's fine. Little brother-sister show. Be fun. She sits in the big chair, obviously.
Definitely. There's no way I can be allowed to be in this chair. Chloe is, I learned this during the break. Chloe is currently leading the 8-10 bracket challenge. Now she's like 1,000th amongst the actual entire group of like everyone who competed. But in the VIP section, Chloe Brisco Bracketology ranks supreme. What a month. March, they say this is March. It certainly is. I'll tweet out a screenshot of that in a little bit. That is absolutely thrilling. Am I a bad? I stopped to try to stop you from doing the thing, and you still beat me to it.
I mean, the answer is yes.
Am I a bad person? Specifically, for all the car batteries that I throw into the ocean.
Yes.
You said no, I got it. Car batteries in the ocean, continuing. Am I a bad person specifically for kind of being all about this Final Four?
No. Here's the thing. This is something I've always firmly believed. Cinderellas are fun. You want them on the first weekend. It's fine if you get one into the Elite Eight. I think
Sweet 16 is great.
Yeah, you want one in the Elite Eight.
You kind of want Iowa State and Miami to knock each other out.
You want a Final Four where all four teams can legitimately win the national title. You want 4 blue bloods. Now, does that mean you can't get a blowout? Like Kansas, when they won in 08, beat North Carolina by like 40 points. It was ridiculous.
But it's 4 programs.
But you want blue bloods.
Yeah.
In the Final Four, you want blue bloods. The only exception to this, and the reason why, and this is, again, in sports life, we have rules, right? There are always exceptions to the rules. Generally, the exceptions have something exceptional about. Butler was the exception because they had a legitimate NBA All-Star on the team.
That's right.
Like Gordon Hayward was great. And then the next year, they went back. Gordon Hayward wasn't there. That national title game was very bad. But there's Sheldon Mack, who played in the NBA. Like, that was a team that had actual NBA talent. No offense to St. Peter's. There were not NBA players on that team.
But also them being a 15 and also playing genuinely good basketball all the way along the way, I would have still preferred Duke St. Peter's, even if it would have been St. Peter's suffering a blowout loss in a Final Four game, whatever. I would have loved to have seen that.
It is different too because it is the first time we've ever seen a 15 seed. Everything that St. Peter's was doing was the first time generally we saw it, except for the first round, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess even the second round, we've seen 3 15 seeds get to the Sweet 16. We've never seen a 15 seed get to the Elite Eight. We would have never seen a 15 seed get to the Elite Four. The first time it is fine, but in general, when you start talking about double-digit seeds, once you get to the Final Four, you want the blue bloods, you want the 1 seeds, you want the 2 seeds, you want the best teams in America, or just even the most storied story team.
Well, that's the thing. Is for me, it's not even all just about like the quality of basketball. It's the teams that I have emotional connections with. Not good emotions either. Like just I know how I feel about Duke and Carolina, and I'm gonna be making jokes all week about how they're gonna put KU in a split screen so we can see Coach K warming up for his last Final Four game.
My first year at Kentucky was Kentucky, Connecticut in the national championship. Neither of them were high seeds. Neither of them had great years, but it's Kentucky and it's UConn, right? Like
Carolina's an 8.
Those are big names. Yeah, and like you said, Carolina's an 8 seed.
Seed doesn't matter
but
here.
It's North Carolina.
That's right.
It is, and also I think
it's Brady Manic.
It's the matchups of this too, right? Because it's not just those 4 teams in. It is North Carolina and Duke. Those are the ACC rivals. And then it's Kansas and Villanova. There's not this huge storied rivalry like we have with Duke and North Carolina, but we have seen, especially in recent memory, those 2 teams have faced off against each other in the NCAA tournament, and they've knocked each other out, right? There is a bit of a, again, maybe rivalry might not be the right word, but there is there is history between those 2 programs, recent history growing.
Sorry, you were on a roll, so I decided I was going to start tweeting out the screenshot of Chloe dominating the 18 bracket challenge.
Tweet it out. But that's the thing, right? Like we have seen, especially from the Kansas point of view, you've been knocked out of the last two times you have faced Villanova, you've been knocked out by them, right? Once in the Final Four, once in the Elite Eight. Duke and North Carolina, weirdly enough, I mean, like it's like obviously it's hard to face each other in the NCAA tournament, but you just assumed there'd been a Elite Eight or Final Four. First time they've ever played each other in the NCAA tournament, and it's Duke and North Carolina. And you know what? North Carolina has a chance. They're trying to go to the national title game. Duke is trying to get a little bit of revenge because last time they played each other, North Carolina embarrassed them on Coach K's last home game. And then Coach K yelled at a bunch of children for celebrating him. Mike from Duke, everybody.
Mark Sanchez trying to make a Super Bowl run was fun. Joe Flacco winning the whole thing.
Wow, he's elite.
Blake Bortles got to an AFC championship game. I like Matt Stafford. I can't believe he pushed that poor girl off the stage when she was trying to take pictures of him, but that's not what happened. He didn't push her. It just didn't look like he cared. It was just a joke about hope she's doing well. Pre-apologizing for the joke before anyone even literally heard it because there was a 6-second radio delay. Joe Burrow is a fine quarterback. And I don't mean that as like he's fine. Like he's a fine, that's a fine young man. But you want Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. You want Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I guess now they're both in the NFC. I was going back to Mark Sanchez and Blake Bortles days. But Drew Brees, you want to see the elite, and you also want to feel like it is a champion crowning the best team, and that's not happening. That's not what March Madness is built for. The best teams usually win the NBA Finals. March Madness just happened. Like you just get a winner. Once you're down these Final Four, it's teams you have a connection to, blue blood programs. You know the names of all of their coaches and probably the names of a couple of players if you're a casual fan. That's worth something. We'll take a break. Whenever we come back, I got a box I want to open. We'll do that whenever we come back.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
The two biggest detriments to me ever having like an actual radio career, I think, or I have three greatest detriments. Number one, I have a bad memory. Number two, I'm easily distracted. And number three, I'm not good at radio.
With Joshua Brisco.
Also, he's not that likable.
I was going to say that next, actually. I was going to say also, I'm not very likable.
You have a squeaky voice for radio.
Right, I do. I have a bad radio voice.
You have a girly laugh.
I definitely have a very girly laugh. I alienate people.
People don't like hipsters.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm pretty much opening this up to the audience. If you want to send stuff to us, you can send Joshua Brisco, care of Union Broadcasting, 6721 West 121st Street, Overland Park, Kansas, 66209. You can mail stuff to us, put my name on it. I don't know if we'll always open it on the show, but this is from Ryan Ewing, who you can see in the Twitch chat right now, XIN Ewing. You replace the R with an X in the Twitch chat. A regular on the Twitch and across Twitter and everything. So thank you, Ryan. Ryan said this was coming, but I do not know what is in it. At one point, he did say in a Twitter DM that it was, quote, nothing special, which feels like really underselling it. I like getting boxes of things I don't know, the contents of, unless it's from like perhaps a foreign government or something. Went to the Hassan Minhaj show on Tuesday night here in Kansas City, which also got weird, by the way. But there's a story. They took our phones, put them in little lock bags and stuff, so we couldn't record it. The whole thing's coming to Netflix at some point. It's a story about opening a box and, having a white powdery substance in it, and not one of the fun ones. So I did shake this box on camera.
Just broke everything.
This is incredible. This is unbelievable. How is this not? Hold on.
This is a box of nothing.
Hold on. I will show it to the camera and you at the same time, Rudy. But from Ryan at XYANEWING.
Zanewing.
I picked up a new hobby and thought this would be fun to do with permission from at Fitzpass, which is Steve Fitzpatrick. Do not feel obligated to keep it. Ryan, this is going up. This is going up on a mantle.
Whoa.
This is unbelievable. This is a cross-stitched version of my cartoon Fire Elmo. Yeah. It was my avatar for a very long time. The flames in the back are AES colored. Again, the design originally from the wonderful Steve Fitzpatrick. It's in a little frame. This is I am glad that we opened this on the show. I will tweet out the picture and tag Ryan as well, so if you can't see right now.
That deserves to be essentially in the background of any video hit that you do, right? Like
forever. Yeah, this is an office backdrop thing. If maybe, I don't know, in the office. We'll figure it out.
Office at home, I would say.
Got the buttons, the little Hawaiian shirt details. This is fantastic. I'll tweet out a picture if you can't see it. Until then, sorry, Mom. Bye, Ryan.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Attention investors. How would you like to collect a government-backed check with secured double-digit returns in as little as 21 days? The Tax Lien Code is going to expose the best-kept secret in real estate investing in a free 20-minute Kickstart video. Text the word money to 26022 now and let their free video show you how to earn government-backed returns up to 25